Chapter 854. Qin Guang decided to hide as soon as possible. With Bai Hua's spies in Beijing, the commotion he caused after getting off the plane yesterday, and the fact that he had contact with the 3 generals of his agency, it was hard to guarantee that he wouldn't guess that he was staying in this hotel. The old man wasn't feeling well, so he took his leave first. He quickly got up, packed up his belongings and prepared to run. As for his original plan to talk to Yu Hong and the others, he threw it to the back of his mind. He would find a safe place to settle down before calling the 3 of them over. As soon as he opened the door, he gave up struggling. The reason was simple: Bai Hua was right in front of his room. Looking at Bai Hua, Qin Guang smiled and said, "Oh, big brother Bai, what a coincidence." Bai Hua smiled insincerely. "That's strange, why is there no signal in the suite of Tianjin Hotel?" Qin Guang decisively pushed the blame to his phone. "It must be my phone's problem. This crappy popcorn is a scam. No wonder he came looking for me, I'm so stupid." This lousy hotel was called the Tianjin Hotel, and it looked like it belonged to the Tianjin Energy Group. It was no wonder that Bai Hua was able to find his room number so easily. The room number of a dignified deputy minister could be found out so easily. This country is dangerous. "Forget it, I know you're afraid that I'll ask you about Qin Yu." "Oh no, it's nothing. It's just that Sister Qin Yu is busy with her business and doesn't want me to bother her with trivial matters." "I'm not saying that you're bothering her, that's not what I meant." Bai Hua silently rolled his eyes. He was speechless at Qin Guang's words. "Forget it, I'll think of a way later, but I definitely won't give up. Recently, the elders have started arranging blind dates for me again, but I have no interest in those mediocre women. The more I see, the more I feel that there is no woman more perfect than Qin Yu in this world. Recently, this feeling has become stronger and stronger. I even think that Shui can't compare to Qin Yu's intellectual beauty, let alone her talent." Qin Guang wished he could cover this fellow's mouth. "Brother, I beg you to restrain yourself. Please stop praising me. If Jiang Yage heard what you said, she would probably laugh herself to death, right? Are you blind? I'm more perfect than Jin Shui? Are you trying to disgust me to death? Brother Bai Hua, you are truly infatuated." Qin Guang didn't know what to say and could only laugh. Bai Hua nodded. "Of course, a man should establish himself in this world, establish his career and marry a peerless beauty. Forcing yourself to marry someone you don't like will only harm others and yourself. Although I, Bai Hua, am not a hero, I am still a responsible man. However, I will not force myself like this, nor will I drag others down. Either I won't marry for the rest of my life, or I'll marry the woman I truly love." The more he spoke, the more excited he became. There was even an indescribable glow on his face. There was a halo behind his head. This time Qin Guang really couldn't hold it in any longer. His mouth was wide open as he looked at this frightening fellow who had already entered a trance state. "Brother Bai Hua, what you said makes sense, but the person you said you want to marry is this baby Scary, very scary. Actually, I really don't understand you. You and Qin Yu have such a good relationship. Don't tell me you haven't discovered her beauty? You can actually resist her peerless charm?" "That's right, I know that you and Shui used to have a fake relationship, but I've known Shui for so many years. I understand her. She's true to you. Didn't you reject her once before? Qin Guang, tell me quietly, do you like men? Otherwise, I really can't understand you. I like your face." Qin Guang spat in his heart. He didn't want to talk to this fellow at all. "My good little brother Xiong. The one who likes men is you, not me. Moreover, I look in the mirror every day. I admit that I can discover my peerless charm every day, but my charm is used to pick up girls, not to seduce men." All right, brother Bai Hua. Keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself. This is a public place. You're a well-known entrepreneur, so it won't be good for your reputation if word of this spreads. All right, why were you looking for me?" Bai Hua snapped back to reality. "I almost forgot about the important matter. I have some information here. You can take a look. Although I don't know what you plan to do at the World's Language Conference, since you want to participate, you definitely want to win, right? This information lists some contestants that you should pay attention to. Don't take it lightly. I took a quick look and there's a group of people called something like Broca Area Awakened. Anyway, they're very powerful. I didn't know that there were so many talented people in this world. The world is really full of strange things." Qin Guang absent-mindedly took the portfolio from Bai Hua. Thank you." Although he didn't feel like he needed to read these things, he didn't care about Broca. Even if you were Majin Bu, you'd still have to kneel on the ground and sing Conquer to me. But in the end this was still Bai Hua's good intentions. But was such a small matter worth him personally delivering it? Sure enough, Bai Hua immediately took out a small envelope from his pocket and continued to stuff it into Qin Guang's hands. Okay, since I took the initiative to help you, you have to help me too. This is a letter I wrote to Qin Yu. Please pass it on for me. Qin Guang stiffly took the letter. Sure enough, this guy was up to no good. I say, as the vice president of Tianjin Energy Group, how could you be so bored as to personally deliver something like this? This must be your real purpose, right? Okay, don't forget about it. I still have something to do at the company, so I'll be leaving first. See you later. Qin Guang silently waved his hand. I won't forget. He added in his heart. Actually, you've already delivered it to the right person. Back in his room and closing the door, Qin Guang subconsciously wanted to burn the letter. But for some reason he tore open the envelope again. Dear Madam Qin Yu, long time no see. I've missed you. How have you been? Since the first time I saw you. Qin Guang's face turned pale as he threw the letter away. He had goosebumps all over his body. Crazy, completely crazy. Brother Bai Hua is really done for. After such a long time, not only did he not give up, but he also became crazier and crazier. I had a premonition that this letter might be a love letter, and it turned out to be so. His condition was so serious that he had to use such an old-fashioned method to pick up girls. At this moment the room door was suddenly opened again. Qin Guang screamed, "Who is it? Die for me." Boss Qin, what's going on? Lu Xiaoyang stiffened his neck and stared blankly at the 9-in white bone claw on his forehead. He wondered if Boss Qin had a miraculous encounter after jumping off a cliff. When I opened the door he was still a few meters away. My eyes flashed and he was already in front of me. I didn't even have time to react. This speed is a bit unscientific. Also, did his fingers just freeze in the fridge? Why do I feel a chill on my forehead? Also, why is his reaction so sensitive? What is that piece of paper on the floor? Butt face? Qin Guang looked at Lu Xiaoyang's dumbfounded face and retracted his hand. Luckily he had retracted his hand in time. Otherwise he would have lost a powerful man. Damn, the love letter I sent to Bai Hua was so stimulating that I almost pinched Buttface's forehead. Hey, it's me. We just bumped into Boss Bai downstairs. Boss Bai said that you were in this room. We were thinking of coming up to report to you, but I was too excited and forgot to knock. That, Boss Qin, did I disturb you? Lu Xiaoyang carefully opened the door a bit more. Behind him stood Yu Hong and Feng Tianyu. Qin Guang took a few steps back and returned to the love letter that was thrown on the floor. His inner strength burst forth from his palms, wanting to use it to suck the love letter into his palm. Get up. Well, it turned out that he was thinking too much. It was impossible for a beginner's muscle strength to control the inner strength so easily, but in fact, it required a lot of skill and difficulty. So he quietly squatted down, grabbed the paper in his hand, crumpled it into a ball and stuffed it into his trouser pocket. Then he waved at the door as if nothing had happened. Why are you all standing at the door? Come in. Qin Guang chatted with them for a while. In just one morning the three of them had settled the live broadcast rights. The online live broadcast rights were sold to Twitch for $6 million. YouTube could only afford $5 million. Although they had a good relationship in the past, they could only apologize this time. The live broadcast rights were divided into two parts. The European live broadcast rights were sold to Sky Sports for £3 million, and the American live broadcast rights were sold to ABC for $3.5 million. At the same time, the major channels were allowed to distribute and broadcast advertisements on their own. Other than the live broadcast rights, the major TV stations also obtained the rights to produce and sell audio and video materials related to the World Language Conference. The copyright would be jointly held by the Tianguang Agency and the various television stations. Qin Guang didn't want to have to pay for a compilation of his pretentious videos or videos on Weibo in the future. Considering that the other party was asking for a high price, this was a very loose copyright license contract. After all, Tianguang Agency didn't have the energy to negotiate for every advertisement in the world, so it was better to sell the live broadcast rights for a good price. Everyone did a good job. It's settled then. I don't have any other plans for the next few days except for one thing. Do your best to cooperate with the TV stations and live broadcast platforms to hype this up. The more hype the better. Qin Guang waved his hand and gave everyone a general direction. All the live broadcast rights and broadcasting rights were sold for about 91 million RMB. After deducting the 10% share to the Wuxia Language Association, his company got about 82 million RMB. Other than that, Little Tsong's Chinese live broadcast rights were almost guaranteed to get 30 million RMB. His company's share was 27 million RMB. In addition to the 63 million RMB from the advertising sponsorship, Tianguang Agency had already earned a total of 172 million renminbi before the World Language Conference even started. When the World Language Conference really started, the foreign live streaming platforms would not be able to make a profit for the time being. Little Tsong's bamboo live streaming platform would probably be able to receive some gifts. Adding in other potential income such as tickets, it would not be impossible for the total income to reach 180 million yuan. Even if he was too unlucky and lost in the competition of the World Language Club due to some unspeakable and impossible situation, he wouldn't be able to get a penny of prize money back, and the total investment of 140 million yuan would all go down the drain. The company would still be able to make a profit. Furthermore, it was impossible for him to lose. Therefore, no matter how stupid, crazy, or naive people thought he was, the old man had already made money, okay? This was the power of hype. This was the IP value of the old man, China's #1 internet celebrity. If he didn't spend 100 million renminbi and didn't have this level of attention, how could he sell the advertising sponsorship and live broadcast rights at such a high price? So, this old man is actually a business genius that only appears once in 100 years, okay? People call him the king of hype, okay? This was called listening to thunder in silence, lifting heavy things as if they were light, and great wisdom seemed foolish. I never needed to kneel to earn money, nor do I need to stand to earn money. I earn money lying down. Chapter 855. Alright, the king of hype is a little tired. I need to play a game to calm myself down. Qin Guang took out his phone and called Lu Xiaoyang over. Boxer, did you bring your computer? Yes, President Qin. Lend it to me, no need to thank me. Lu Xiaoyang, this? Qin Guang deliberately put on a straight face. Is there something shameful in your computer? Lu Xiaoyang, no, but I have to write a proposal later. Comrade Xiaoyang, don't be so rigid. You have to worry about your boss's urgent needs. I have an urgent need for my computer now. If you want to write a proposal, you can think of a way yourself. Go to an internet cafe or borrow a computer from Old Fong or Old Yu. But my business is more important. Qin Guang lectured Lu Xiaoyang, I'm serious. Boss, I'm in an urgent situation right now, and it concerns the survival of the company. Boxer, it's time for you to show your adaptability. Lu Xiaoyang was on the verge of tears. President Qin indeed. Even the reason for borrowing a computer was so lofty. 5 minutes later, Lu Xiaoyang handed over the new Apple MVP he bought a few days ago with both hands. Qin Guang, what's wrong with you? How can an Apple system fight against the Dota? President Qin, don't you have something important to do? Fight against the Dota? Qin Guang waved his hand. Don't worry about the details. Right, go ahead. It's an Apple, it's not like it can't be used. Anyway, this was someone else's computer. Master Guang was very straightforward. After 2 to 3 hours of fiddling with it, he decisively changed Boxer's Apple OS to Windows. He then downloaded and installed the Dota, adjusted the picture quality to the lowest, and got ready to play. Actually, the reason why he had such a strong desire to play games was not just to kill time. There was another important reason. A few days ago, when he was playing games with Lin Jingwei and the others, he was dragged down by the 4 of them. He was exhausted to the point where he could only secure 4 consecutive victories. At that time it looked like it was hard, but after the fight he still felt a warm feeling in his lower abdomen. The inner strength qi transformed into a little mouse was almost no different from when he was studying and taking makeup exams. It was still circulating on its own, constantly strengthening. In fact, the principle was the same. He was fully focused when he was reading, and even more so when he was playing games. Sometimes playing games was even more tiring than reading books. After playing a few consecutive high-intensity games, one would feel dizzy. For Qin Guang, it was easier for him to concentrate when he was playing than when he was reading. All he had to do was sit there and he could instantly enter the state without having to change anything. Therefore, he wanted to give it another try and make a comparison in his mind. He wanted to know if his inner force would increase faster when he was fully focused on playing games or when he was reading or actively guiding his qi. After starting the live stream, he didn't interact with the bullet screen and went straight into the game. Roughly 4 to 5 hours later, Yu Hong and the rest returned from their work. However, Qin Guang was still immersed in the stairway bureau. For the entire afternoon he had played a total of 7 rounds. Compared to other high-ranking players, his matchmaking speed was much faster. Others were matched for an hour and 30 points. Although he did not queue in seconds, he was matched in 5 to 6 minutes. The reason was simple. As the only almighty in the 4 servers and the #1 internet celebrity in China, the fact that he started live streaming to increase his points instantly caused the players of Dota to go into a frenzy. Not only did his live streaming room explode in popularity, but even though it was working hours, the number of viewers quickly exceeded 1 million and was approaching 3 million. Even Dota's local server was in an uproar. The number of players online at the same time was 20% higher than usual. The high-ranking players flocked to him and attacked him. The number of viewers on the main page of the game had reached an unbelievable 200,000. Even large-scale competitions didn't have such a number of viewers. Both V Club and Perfect had no choice but to temporarily adjust the server to provide Qin Guang's account with the spectator server. He had learned it perfectly this time. There were many high-ranking almighties that were matched at the same time, so the match was naturally faster. It was not uncommon to see various top branches with an average of more than 8,000 points. There was another advantage to this kind of high-ranking match. The high-ranking almighties were all reputable figures in the local server. There were no actors or people who deliberately cheated others. After all, no one wanted to be the subject of ridicule in front of millions of people. From then on, they would be constantly reported and turned into wardens. Whether it was Qin Guang's teammates or the opponent, they all gave it their all. Therefore, this kind of high-ranking match was no less exciting than a top professional match. After 7 rounds of games in the afternoon, although Qin Guang was dizzy from exhaustion, he really had a good time. "Piao Chen, have you eaten?" Lu Xiaoyang asked cautiously as he stood behind Qin Guang and watched as Qin Guang wielded the Black Emperor staff and endured the encirclement of 5 heroes, tearing apart the enemy's base. The pain in his heart could not be any greater. "Is this what you meant by a matter of life and death for the company? Dota? You even installed Windows on my MVP? Are you poisonous? My computer's left speaker is not making any sound. Did you burn the hardware for Windows?" Qin Guang leaned back and was not in a hurry to pay attention to Lu Xiaoyang. Instead, he closed his eyes and focused on sensing the little mouse that was running around in his body like a wild horse. At this time he was a little physically and mentally exhausted. This afternoon of high-intensity matches, there was almost no interval in between. The intensity of each match was close to the Seattle International Invitational Tournament finals. Even professional players could not withstand it, let alone a former patient with severe Dota fatigue. After more than 2 rounds he would feel as nauseous as if he was pregnant. "Forget it, for the peerless godly skill I can persevere no matter how hard it is." Xiao Chen, who was addicted to games, found a particularly righteous reason for himself. Because he found that his hard work was really worth it. It was different from being a god with 4 legs in a fish pond. It was just hard work and tiredness, but he did not need to be overly focused. He only showed off his skills when he was in a group fight. Usually, when he was farming money, the opponent's movements were within his expectations. Moreover, he only wanted to win and did not want to lose. He never allowed himself to make any mistakes. Such focus and dedication brought about extremely obvious benefits. He found that the speed at which the little mouse became stronger was faster than when he deliberately meditated. Since this difference could already be felt, it meant that the difference was not small. Looking at it in the long term, it was extremely significant. This meant that in the future he could train by playing Dota. He even thought in his heart that Wenwen liked Dota so much. Was it because she was like him, that her internal energy naturally grew faster when she played games than when she meditated? But he quickly denied this thought. If that was the case, it was impossible that Wenwen did not tell him. After all, he was the only god who could have the heavenly Holy Grail as a foundation for his physical body. Taking a deep breath, Qin Guang logged out of the game and switched to the live broadcast room. "Brother all-rounder, you are about to compete. Are you really a man to play games the whole afternoon?" He is just accompanying the prince to study. It is just a formality to hype himself up. Do you really expect him to win? Another 7 consecutive wins. This guy's solo ranking score is already more than 10,200. Don't tell me he is going to rush to 11,100? Who can stop him? Thank you Dou Di for the rocket. Thank you Mei Emperor for the rocket. Mei Emperor was defeated just now. There were all kinds of comments. Qin Guang did not have the mood to care about the haters. He only said goodbye to his fans and the person who gave him the gift. Then he turned off the live broadcast and went offline. He then turned around and slowly stood up. Taking a deep breath, the little mouse that was running around in his body gradually calmed down. He spat out a mouthful of turbid air. Let's go eat. Lu Xiaoyang could not move his feet. Oh my MVP. What the hell is your heartache? If this project is done well, I will give you a bonus of 100,000 yuan, okay? Mr. Qin, using an apple to play games is too boring. Should I buy you an alien later? With your salary. Lu Xiaoyang counted in his heart. 100,000 yuan was enough to buy 3 or 4 alien. Just like that, he secretly decided on the Apple MVP rescue plan. Qin Guang sat at the dining table and listened to the reports of the 3 people. Among Yu Hong, Feng Tianyu, and Lu Xiaoyang, Yu Hong was responsible for coordinating the meeting between Tianguang Brokerage and the China Language Association. Since the investment budget was different now, the layout of the venue naturally couldn't be so stingy. These were all places that needed to be spent, so someone had to keep an eye on them and make overall arrangements so that every penny could be spent where it was needed. Feng Tianyu was responsible for coordinating with the major sponsors and the live broadcast media. For example, the standard and installation of the live broadcast equipment. Now that the money had been spent, the live broadcast effect had to be the best. 4K video recording, HD omnidirectional multi-camera, and if conditions permitted, even a VR live broadcast. Live AR data processing support had to be implemented. As for Lu Xiaoyang, he was responsible for coordinating with the major media information structure and continuing to follow up the publicity. After dinner, Qin Guang returned to his room and gave Wenwen a call. On one hand, he wanted to ask her what was going on with the strange phenomenon of his natural increase in power. On the other hand, he wanted to sound her out and see what the situation was on her side. Ever since Qin Guang saved Wenwen from qi deviation, he realized that this Miss Wen was a bit of a one-track mind. She seemed to think that he was a burden and even pretended to be affected by qi deviation, intending to keep a distance from him. She obviously wanted to leave me alone to act cool. What a joke. The Condor hero couple Jiao is inseparable from Meng, Meng is inseparable from Jiao, okay? What's more, the internal force martial artist has something to do with me, whether it's official or personal, okay? Don't think that I can just stand by and watch. I wonder what kind of expression she will have when she hears that I can play the Dota faster than meditating. I'm curious. Chapter 856. On the other end of the line, no one knew what Wenwen was doing. It rang for a long time before she picked it up. You weren't meditating in seclusion just now, were you? Qin Guang asked in bewilderment. Wenwen sighed in her heart and forced herself to say in a cold voice, I was indeed meditating just now, but it's all right. My skills are profound now and I can control them freely. Even if I'm in seclusion, it's not like I'm going to die. It's fine to stop for a while. Qin Guang pursed his lips slightly. It seemed like there was no way she could change this bad habit of looking down on others and thinking that he was a burden. Actually, Qin Guang had wronged Wenwen. Back when she went into qi deviation, Wenwen behaved that way because she felt that she had successfully cultivated human transformation. In the future, there was a high possibility that she could break through the void and be in a different world from Qin Guang. She thought that when the time came, instead of letting him miss her for nothing, it would be better for her to cut ties with him and save him from suffering for nothing. Wanting to deal with the poison sect and the dark sect alone was only one of the reasons. What really made her pull out her lousy acting skills and put on a cold expression was mostly because of the human transformation in her body. However, not long after Qin Guang left, she realized that the human transformation in her stomach was different from what was recorded in the books. The baffling thing was Qin Guang's appearance. How could the human transformation in the body of an inner force martial artist be someone else's appearance? Even if he was her only man, it was completely illogical and had no scientific basis. At that time she was in a bad mood and her mind was in a mess. Not to mention that she had never heard of such a situation, even the knowledgeable fourth great-grandmother did not know about it. Recently she had searched through all the books and found nothing. The only thing that didn't change was that her cultivation was still inexplicably progressing along the broad road, advancing at a rapid pace. There was simply no way for her to stop. This was something that had never been recorded in the ancient records. Wenwen gradually stopped thinking about why her human form was a miniature version of Qinguang. Human transformation was, after all, a legendary existence. There was not much to refer to. Perhaps there was an oversight in the records of the predecessors. It was not impossible that martial artists who practiced different martial arts would have different forms of human transformation. For example, the painting volume, passed down by the ancestors of the Wen family, could form a humanoid figure who was the partner of the cultivator. In short, based on the current situation, he would probably have to break through the void before he could live to the end of his life. Thus, it was better for her to continue keeping her distance from Qinguang. As a result, she forced herself to continue acting cold and aloof, which made old Master Guang especially unhappy. Qinguang decided to give her a surprise, no, a scare. Therefore, he deliberately panicked and said, "When you know that I have inner strength recently, right? But I realized that the situation is a little strange. My inner strength is growing stronger by itself every day. I'm not meditating, I'm just reading or hitting the sword tower, but qi is running through my meridians on its own, like a horse whose tail has been lit on fire. I can't stop it no matter what. In addition, when I hit the sword tower, the increase in qi is at least 1 to 2 times faster than when I deliberately cultivate. Anyway, as long as I focus on something, I don't need to deliberately breathe in and out. Qi will move on its own." Wenwen was indeed shocked, her eyelids twitching. "What? How is that possible?" "That's not all. 2 days ago when I first developed qi, I sparred with Xianxia and Wu Miaoan. Both of them are at the peak of bone strength, but I almost made Wu Miaoan lose all her power with one punch." Qinguang was too embarrassed to show off his ability to brag. But when he thought about how he had forcefully boasted about himself as the omnipotent prophet and great sage Right Qin in the transient sea, he really couldn't say it out loud. If he said too much, it would scare the little girl. In short, he was terrifyingly strong. He didn't brag easily, but when he did, even he was afraid of himself. Wenwen said, "That's impossible." The ancient people also felt that the earth wasn't round, that it's a round sky and a round earth, but now? I'm asking you about this not to bullshit with you, but because this situation has already happened, it's already an established fact. Now I want to know what to do, Miss Wen. Can we get into the right state as soon as possible? Since you want to be aloof, then I'll talk to you in a serious manner. Wenwen listened to his tone and saw that he was so serious, so she also became serious. She thought to herself, he really doesn't seem to be joking? But this kind of thing is too unbelievable, okay? Looking at the thousands of years of history in the pugilistic world, there has never been such a phenomenon, okay? An adult in his 20s who had only practiced external martial arts for less than 2 months, inexplicably had inner strength. This was the first ridiculous thing. Just having the feeling of qi, or maybe just crossing the threshold of muscle strength, could already threaten a martial artist at the peak of bone strength. And with one punch he could make others lose all their power. This was the second ridiculous thing. Hitting the sword tower could also increase inner strength, and it was faster than meditating in seclusion. This was the third ridiculous thing. I also don't know. Wenwen struggled for a long time but could only say it embarrassedly. Qinguang looked as if she was lying to him. "Come on, how could you not know? You're at the level of Wenzhong, and from the information I got from the Guangding General Office, it said that you're the world's #1 martial artist. If you don't know, then who should I ask?" Wenwen wanted to tell him not to mention what happened to you, even my own situation I don't understand, okay? But Qinguang was right, now she was indeed the world's #1 martial artist, and being ridiculed like this by this guy, she felt a little embarrassed. Wenwen rolled her eyes and decided to tell a big lie. "Now that things have come to this, I can only tell you the truth. The reason why the Wen family's Danqing scroll can make the Wen family stand in the pugilistic world for thousands of years is actually because of this unique characteristic of Danqing scroll. As long as the practitioner's state of mind is there, it can naturally grow. Yes, it's like this." "Really? Really?" After hanging up the phone, Qinguang couldn't help but sigh. The old man was indeed too evil. He even forced Wenwen to lie. It was really sad and lamentable. When I reach the level of Pai Jin, then I'll directly kill in front of you and let you see what a real genius is." Just as he was planning to play another 2 rounds of games to practice, he didn't expect his phone to ring again. He picked it up and saw that it was Xianxia. This guy finally caught up with her again. It was really hard on him. Xianxia arrived at about 10 o'clock in the evening. He was rushed from Yanjing to Wujing by Big Beard. And then he slept on a chair at the Wujing airport for a night. And then he returned to Yanjing early the next morning, which made him very tired. He originally planned to find a room to sleep for 3 hours, adjust his state and then find Qin Guang, but he didn't expect that when he woke up, it was already sunset, so he quickly called Qin Guang. Qin Guang said with a smile, "I say Brother Yang, it's better for you to stay at home. When Big Beard asks, I'll say that you've been with me these days. Look at you running around behind me like this, it's useless, it's so difficult." Xianxia said, "How can I do that? What if Director Deng calls me and asks me to give my phone to you and you're not by my side? How can I explain it to him?" Qin Guang fooled Big Beard Deng with his willfulness, but Xianxia didn't have the guts. "Well then come over. Get yourself a room in the Tianjin hotel. I won't reimburse you for the room," Qin Guang said with his lips curled. After hanging up the phone, Xianxia felt unspeakable grievances in his heart. The commercials that Qin Guang had shot when he was representing 12 companies had now been released. Whether it was on TV media, video websites or even social networks, there were commercials that he had starred in everywhere. It was impossible for Big Beard Deng not to see it. Qin Guang's acting skills could be seen in the commercials. The feat of shooting 12 commercials in a day, Xianxia also truthfully told Big Beard Deng. But this stubborn uncle didn't listen. He insisted that the acting skills in commercials and in movies seemed to be different, but in fact they were worlds apart. Even if the performance in the commercial was like that of an Oscar winner, when it came to the big screen, an actor had to perfectly interpret their role. They had to face all kinds of scenes and play the role with depth. It was not the same concept at all. How could acting skills be based on the performance in the commercials? Wasn't this nonsense? It was simply unprofessional to compare the two. As a director, this was not the way to think. Xianxia was scolded by Big Beard, but he couldn't refute. "Director Deng, I understand what you said, but Qin Guang's acting skills are really not something that can be summed up by a movie king." He wanted to pull Qin Guang in front of Big Beard and play the Ollie version of Big Beard again so that Big Beard could open his eyes wide and have a good look. However, as the director and producer of Women, Big Beard was so busy that he didn't even have time to rest. Qin Guang was even busier than Big Beard. He was promoted from the male lead to the major investor, and he was even harder to serve than Big Beard. Xianxia only thought about this in his heart, and he didn't dare to mention it to Qin Guang. Qin Guang didn't care about Xianxia and continued to play games on Lu Xiaoyang's MVP. It had to be said that the combination of playing games and practicing martial arts was very suitable for him. The next day, Lu Xiaoyang woke up early and went to Jingxi to bring back the ET computer. He offered it with both hands, and it could be said that his MVP had been saved. It was a high-performance game system specially developed for games, and it was very comfortable to play games. It was another round of clean winning streak. Qin Guang's stairway points kept breaking new records in the local server and even in the world. While others had just crossed the 9,000 mark and were still tormented by this threshold, Qin Guang, the only god with 10,000 points, had already walked further and further down the road. At first, some people would fantasize about catching up to him from time to time. But now no one had this idea, and it was too unrealistic. Everyone was playing a completely different game. Even the style was different. "We are Fu Jian's hunter, and you are Huang Yulong's refined Hong Kong manga. There is no comparison." Chapter 857. For the next few days, it really became a carnival for the local Dota players. Qin Guang's celestial stairway points were getting higher and higher, giving the players one after another a feast for their eyes and ears. Although because of his continuous live streaming after the novelty had passed, the number of online viewers had dropped. But in these few days, the average number of online viewers in his live streaming room was still as high as 2 million. The rare stable live streaming caused the number of viewers in his live streaming room to continue to increase, reaching an average of 100,000 viewers per day, finally crossing the 5 million mark. Other than those godly live streaming rooms that had more viewers than the total number of humans, there was probably no one higher than him. In addition, although he had already started to ask the audience masters and fans to stop giving gifts, it still could not stop the enthusiasm of the audience. On average, he received hundreds of thousands of gifts every day. As time passed, because his live streaming became the norm, the gift income decreased to a certain extent every day, but after a few days he still received about 2 million. Just like what some of his fans said on his Weibo, this was his capital to make a comeback. If he really played too much in the future and unfortunately went bankrupt, he could really rely on live streaming alone to continue living freely. Apart from these benefits, he was most satisfied with the growth of his inner strength. Over the next few days, because he always won more than he lost, his celestial stairway points were getting higher and higher. Quantitative change led to qualitative change. The team members that the system matched with him were getting lower and lower, while the opponent's scores were getting higher and higher. In the last 2 days, it was often him, a god with 10,000 points, leading 4 players with 6 or 7,000 points to fight against 5 active professional players with an average of more than 8,000 points. It was a fight that was dark and gloomy. The sun and the moon were not bright. The opponents were also very targeted. Basically, whichever lane he walked, that lane would be playing mahjong from the start, obviously not giving him a chance to develop peacefully. Although he had an overwhelming advantage in terms of his own strength, the opponents, who were all active professional players, were not bad either. Even if they could not beat him in a lane, they would not be easily defeated by him. His teammates, on the other hand, would often be taken advantage of by the opponents due to the difference in individual standards and tactical awareness. Basically, in the later stages of every game, if Qin Guang could not show off his skills, he would often be slowly eaten away by the opponents who suppressed his teammates. Even though it was so difficult, he still maintained a high win rate. It was just that every match was exceptionally strenuous. This fierce battle seemed hard, but it wasn't a bad thing. The harder he fought, the more engrossed he was. The more energetic the little mouse in his body became, and the faster his inner strength grew. 6 days had passed. Although he didn't have a reference target and wasn't sure what level he was at now, he could feel that the little mouse incarnated from his inner strength was at least 10% stronger than before. It wasn't much, but according to the records in the painting scroll, if someone else wanted to increase the sense of inner strength to such an extent, they would have to spend at least half a year. But he had only played Dota for a week and had such an effect. Even Wenwen would go crazy with jealousy if she knew about it. Unknowingly, Qin Guang paid no attention to the outside world and wholeheartedly practiced the painting volume. By the time he came back to his senses, it was already the day when the World Language Gathering would officially begin. According to previous practices, the main content of the first day of the World Language Conference was the speeches of the world's major language experts, sharing the new academic achievements of the year. The focus was on academic exchanges, and at the same time, everyone could get familiar with each other and look forward to the new year. Then they could build momentum for the competition the next day. Qin Guang did not plan to go. He only cared about tomorrow's competition. Today's academic conference was not even broadcasted live on TV. At most, it could only be featured on the evening news. Thinking about it, he felt that it was rather boring. However, the people in the company didn't think so. President Chen, you've been locked in your room playing games for a few days straight. Why don't you go and take a look today? Lu Xiaoyang tried his best to persuade Qin Guang. Qin Guang had already turned on his computer and was ready to work. Qin Guang curled his lips. What's the point of attending an academic conference? I don't want to be an old pedant. Besides, I don't seem to have any academic achievements. There's no point in going. I don't want to go on stage to speak. Lu Xiaoyang's heart ached. He had just played rock paper scissors with Yu Hongfang and Fang Tianyu, and then he knelt in the hands of those 2 idiots. He knew that President Chen was not so easy to persuade. Also, you've boasted so much. You've already proclaimed yourself as the champion, and now you're telling me that you have no academic achievements? You're making me panic. But we're one of the organizers of the World Language Conference. President Chen, you're also the only spokesperson of our company. You've been streaming games in your hotel room for a few days. Why don't you do something different today and do an outdoor live broadcast? Bamboo and Twitch will also do an online live broadcast today. If you don't go, the popularity of the event will be worrying. Look at how good the weather is outside. It's rare for Beijing to have such weather. Why don't you go out and get some fresh air? Qin Guang was expressionless. It's so early in the morning and there's no smog outside. It's indeed good weather for an autumn outing. Lu Xiaoyang's face lit up. That's why we're playing 2 games to celebrate there's no smog today. Qin Guang was ready to start a live broadcast. Lu Xiaoyang, don't. President Chen, you've been streaming games for the past few days. Although your numbers on Bamboo are exploding, people are saying that you're addicted to games. You're ignoring the movies and the World Language Conference. You've become an internet addict. Qin Guang shrugged and rolled his eyes. Why should I care about those haters? I'm not afraid of gossip. I'll walk my own path. Let them say whatever they want. Tomorrow during the competition they'll know who I am. As for the movies, Brother Xianxia is just next door. You can ask him. My acting is as steady as a dog. Comrade Xiao Lu was in despair. I forget it. If you don't want to go, then don't go. Poor Xiao Kong. He finally managed to invite his bamboo platform's face, Beauty Chu, to be the host of the outdoor live broadcast. In the end, President Qin refused to go. I'm done. Why are you still dawdling? Hurry up and go. Any later and you'll be late. The next second, Qin Guang inexplicably appeared at the door. He was changing his shoes. He turned around and urged Lu Xiaoyang impatiently. Lu Xiaoyang's eyes widened. What happened? What's going on? What did I say just now? What's with President Chen's reaction? Am I suffering from temporary amnesia? Didn't you say you wouldn't go out? President Chen, your reaction is a bit too honest. Lu Xiaoyang followed him into the elevator in a daze. He didn't understand what was going on. Qin Guang took out his phone excitedly. Zhang, help me look at my hairstyle. Is it neat? My front camera is fine. Although it can't take selfies, it can still illuminate my beauty. You're right. As the president of the company, I have to attend such an important event. My personal image is related to the company. I have to pay attention to it. I'm a responsible good suit. Alright, today's theme is the outdoor live broadcast. Broadcast. Qin Guanxing hurriedly opened the outdoor live broadcast. When he took the phone, Lu Xiaoyang's mind was still quite confused. He felt that something was wrong. But didn't you say, Qin Guang said righteously, I was joking with you. How can I stand you up at such an important event? Do I look like someone who doesn't know what's important? I almost believed you. Chapter 858. Halfway through the journey, Qin Guang gave little Tsong a call and asked about the Chu First Mississippi. Only then did Lu Xiaoyang realize why Qin Guang suddenly changed his mind. Our boss Qin is really a practical person. He said he wouldn't move. Even though he had already complained and begged, he still had a heart of stone. But in the end he came out without hesitation. There was no other reason. He had his eyes on Chu First Miss, who was second only to him in popularity on Bamboo Live. He had watched Chu First Miss's live stream a few times. There were indeed some things that ordinary people couldn't do. Sure enough, even an outstanding man like Boss Chen couldn't avoid vulgarity. Wait, in a sense Boss Chen was the real vulgar, okay? Unbearably vulgar, okay? At the same time, Lu Xiaoyang recalled the incident that made his relationship with Qin Guang better. Back then, didn't Qin Guang ask for a portable hard drive from him? In his office, Qin Guang spent an entire afternoon looking at the H drive that contained all sorts of information on famous actresses. Oh my god, if I had known earlier, I would have brought this up the moment we met. But I'm so tired and scared. I'm such a failure. This Chu First Miss was also an extraordinary person on Bamboo Livestream. It was said that she was a university student from a certain university in the country. But as for which university, neither the audience nor the other live streamers knew. Basically, the people on the livestream platform only knew that she called herself Chu First Mississippi. She was just like Qin Guang. She basically didn't work hard in her live stream. But her popularity was so high that it made people's hair stand on end. Looking at the entire Bamboo livestream, she was second only to Qin Guang and a few other famous live streamers. It seemed that she became a live streamer purely out of interest, not for money. Even when Xiao Tsong took the initiative to ask for a contract, she was flatly rejected. But this woman also proved a principle. The more capable a person was, the more they had the capital to be arrogant. Although her live stream was like a game, she was beautiful and sweet. Moreover, the content of her live stream wasn't about acting cute, so it was very interesting. In this aspect, she was a little similar to Qin Guang. Every time she would change her tricks and show off something. Her main game was League of Legends. She wasn't as crazy as Qin Guang, but she was still a true queen. She was rumored to be the main mid laner of a female team and would occasionally play in online tournaments. However, she did not play many games. Most of the time she was either singing or doing questions on live broadcasts. That's right, it was all kinds of advanced mathematics problems, the kind that made people's hair stand on end. Some haters said that she had memorized the answers first and purposely did it for effect in the live broadcast. They said that she was acting. Therefore, she went to participate in the variety show, Almighty Brain, and immediately won the title of King of Mental Calculation. This time no one could question her anymore. Sometimes she would broadcast outdoors and many people would pee their pants when they saw her 100-meter sprint result, which was close to that of a national-level sprinter. Occasionally she would go swimming. She was actually at the national level. This person was so good at sports that it made people's hair stand on end. Sometimes she would broadcast programming or hacking skills. Then she would hack a large foreign social media site and clear the CEO's fans to zero. She was indeed a strange person. All round in sports, super high IQ and a harmless and charming appearance. However, she had a strong personality. She was rather arrogant and aloof. All these qualities made her an oddity similar to Qin Guang. Of course, no matter what, she was still much worse than Qin Guang. Therefore, even though she was a cute girl, she was still not as popular as Qin Guang. Although Qin Guang never live-streamed his ward rounds, he would still take a stroll around the platform every time he went offline. Occasionally he would also take notice of this girl. He felt that her looks were very good and she was also a little talented. As a normal man, he was naturally a little interested in this Chu First Mississippi. He might not really want to do anything with her, but it was rare for him to meet a weakened version of the all-rounder superwoman who had a similar style to himself. Of course he would be curious. "Brother Little Tsong, you're amazing. How did you manage to invite this godly person?" Once the call was connected, Qin Guang happily chatted with little Kong Chong. Xiaotsong was disgusted by his words. "You have the cheek to call someone a godly person? Old bro, can you please look in the mirror? You're the most godly person in the world, okay? I was wondering too. I called this Chu First Miss once before. I wanted to ask her to sign a contract, but she only offered me 5 points. Don't sign. Goodbye. Scram." Qin Guang was overjoyed. "How embarrassing. You actually talk to people like that? Why don't you ban her?" "I want to, but she's a great hacker. I'm afraid she'll go after my server like she did to others. So it's fine if she doesn't want to sign. Anyway, she can help me gain popularity by broadcasting here and her gift company can still make money. She has a weird temper and I don't want to offend her. If she's unhappy and goes to another company to broadcast, I won't be able to reason with her. Then why did she come to be my outdoor host this time? I'm also at a loss. This time for your World Language Conference I searched through the company's contracted anchors for a long time, but I really couldn't find a suitable candidate. My brain short-circuited, so I called her again. I didn't expect her to agree immediately. I thought about it and there's probably only one reason." Qin Guang asked. "What?" Little Tsong chuckled. "She must have fallen for your genes. Other than you, they're here for you. Other than that, I really can't find another explanation. After all, your brother Guang. You're so handsome. Great minds think alike. It's rare for me to praise someone, but Little Tsong, you really have good taste. You're flattering me. Brother Guang, you're so handsome that anyone who isn't blind can see it. What kind of taste is that? Brother Guang, you're too humble. In this fickle society, there aren't many people as humble as you, Brother Guang. My apologies, Little Kong. There aren't many young rich second-generation heirs like you." The two of them continued to flatter each other until Lu Xiaoyang had goosebumps all over his body, and Feng Tianyu, who was driving, was about to go crazy. Only then did the two of them stop. "I've never seen such a shameless person," the 3 pillars of Tianguang Agency thought at the same time. Just as they were about to hang up, Chong Xiaotsong suddenly remembered to add, "Oh right, Miss Chu also said that she wants to participate in your competition." Qin Guang curled his lips nonchalantly. "It's fine. It's not like she's a threat to me. But according to the incomplete statistics of the company's employees, she seems to have spoken a dozen foreign languages over the past few months. She's pretty good." Qin Guang came to a sudden realization. This Chu First Missy seemed to have learned quite a bit of other stuff and even grasped over a dozen foreign languages. Furthermore, she looked to be younger than him. Who knew if she might be one of the broker region awakened? However, it was useless. "It's fine, it's really fine. Alright, I'm almost there. Talk to you later." After that, Qin Guang hung up the call. At this moment he felt even more curious about the Chu First Missy. If he remembered correctly, she had appeared calm and intelligent in her live broadcast. She had a bad temper and she was an unruly person. He didn't know if she would give him the cold shoulder when they met later. With these thoughts in mind, the 4 of them parked in the parking lot of the Dongqing Convention and Exhibition Center. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm now at the World Language Club. There will be a host later. She's the host for today's outdoor live broadcast. She's a beauty. Let's send gifts. Alright, no gifts. As Qin Guang got out of the car, he held his phone and talked to the camera happily. Since he was already here, he might as well make the outdoor live broadcast more professional. He had to interact with the bullet screen. Qin Guang. You really came? Just when Qin Guang was talking to his phone, he suddenly heard a shriek. Turning around, he saw a girl about 1.6 meters tall standing next to him with her hands clasped over her heart. Her slightly pale face was flushed and she seemed to be very excited. She had clean, shoulder-length hair. She wasn't tall, but the proportions of her figure were very good. She looked very pleasing to the eye at first glance. But Qin Guang felt that something was wrong. This delicate face looked familiar, exactly like the Chu first miss he saw in the live broadcast. But what the hell was with her expression? You are completely different from the cold and elegant girl in my mind. You look like a star chaser. So different from what I remember. It's so different. Chu first miss? Qin Guang asked tentatively. He thought that he had met the female host's twin sister. Chu first miss was amused. She patted Qin Guang's shoulder. It's me. Brother Quan. Don't call me Chu first miss, just call me Zijin. I'm your fan. Qin Guang had already called up the heavenly Holy Grail's faith function. Looking at the thick thread of faith on her forehead, which was almost as thick as a load-bearing beam, he thought, you don't have to tell me. Already know. She's really my die-hard fan. Sigh, the old man is too handsome. Even the mysterious beautiful girl can't resist the old man's charm. No, I'm more mysterious than she is. Thinking about it this way, it doesn't seem strange anymore. Qin Guang asked again. I heard from little Tsong that you also signed up for the competition? Chu Zijin laughed. Yes. Since I have nothing to do, I might as well give it a try. I'll just treat it as a chance to see the world. Qin Guang continued in a sincere tone. I hope that you're here with a learning mindset. Chu Zijin tilted her head. Why? Because I already said in the interview that I can only be the champion. This is actually a stage I built for myself. Of course, I'm the only protagonist. As for the others, I can only say sorry. Hearing his words, even Yu Hong and the other two beside him felt embarrassed. Our CEO Chen's paranoia is getting worse. Even his EQ is declining. Who talks to a girl like this? Chapter 859. Chu Zijin was slightly startled. She had always been paying attention to him and had even used the pen name of Chu Hihanjia to write many articles related to him. Whenever he was being defamed, she was also the first to stand up and write an article to argue with others. She knew that he was an insolent person. But this was the first time that she had a real conversation with him. Brother Almighty was even more arrogant and overbearing than she remembered. However, he had always been capable of this. Since he was so confident now, it meant that he had come prepared. Let's wait for a good show. Of course, you are Qin Guang. Chu Zijin smiled more brightly. She looked at Qin Guang with stars in her eyes. Yu Hong and the other two were dumbfounded. Is this the so-called fortune favors fools? How can a girl worship you more when you brag so shamelessly? President Qin, what kind of high incense did you burn in your previous life? In addition, this Miss Chu's brain circuit is a bit abnormal. Lu Xiaoyang, who was next to him, came up to him. Well, President Qin, let's go in. There are only 5 minutes left before the meeting starts. Nice to meet you, Miss Chu. I am also a loyal audience in your live broadcast room. Buttface was really bold. He actually dared to take the initiative to talk to Chu Zijin. In fact, he didn't have any other intentions. He just thought that Chu Zijin had come here alone. Later, when he broadcast for Qin Guang, he might take out his cell phone and cooperate with her. He wanted to get to know her as a familiar working partner. He didn't expect that Chu Zijin didn't even look at him. Instead, she continued to look at Qin Guang as if there was no one else around. The cold wind blew. Lu Xiaoyang felt a chill from his toes to his head. He was embarrassed. He was completely ignored. Are you blind? Are you deaf? Qin Guang felt sorry for Lu Xiaoyang. He coughed and put the cell phone in Chu Zijin's hand. Well, anyway, it's a pleasure working with you today. My cell phone has been turned on. Since you are the host, please hold it for me. Without waiting for others to speak, Qin Guang waved his hand again and took the lead to walk into the hall. He didn't know that the bullet screen in his live broadcast room had exploded again. By God! Why was it her? Is she the beautiful hostess that Brother Quan was talking about? Am I seeing things? Missy doesn't even bat an eyelid when the #1 fan on the ranking board sends gifts. She also never says thank you. She's as cold as ice, and she actually came to be a host for Brother All-Rounder. He was laughing so hard that his mouth was about to split open. Is she possessed by a ghost? I think I heard Missy say that she also has an idol in her live broadcast. It looks like it's Brother All-Rounder. It doesn't seem impossible. After all, their styles are a bit similar, and Brother All-Rounder's achievements are a bit higher. I understand what you're saying, but I can't accept it. The image of a goddess has been destroyed. Disillusionment your face. Qin Guang is so outstanding. What's wrong with worshipping him? Was it very shameful? If I were to stand in front of him, I'd be even more ferocious than Chu First Mississippi. I'd just pounce on him. I don't understand. I really don't understand. What is the relationship between these two? Didn't eldest Miss never interact with others or interact with anyone in the past? Why did she come out this time? Don't be so surprised. Think about what Brother All-Rounder did and then think about what Miss Chu did. Aren't they a bit similar? It's just that Brother All-Rounder is a super enhanced version. That's right. Before Brother All-Rounder appeared, I really thought that Missy was the most amazing genius. While the comments were speculating about the relationship between the two, Qin Guang and Chu Zijin were also observing each other. Qin Guang didn't have any superfluous thoughts. As soon as he heard the girl's name, he ran out excitedly. He was curious about what was so special about this girl who looked a bit like him. Everyone was curious. If others were curious about him, he would also be curious about others. However, after seeing her, Qin Guang actually felt a little regretful. Apart from being excessively beautiful, she was too mediocre in other aspects. Compared to ordinary fans, she didn't seem to be any different. She didn't have the mysterious aura that she had when he saw her on the internet. The feeling that Chu Zijin gave him now was that she was just SOSO. He didn't have the previous expectations, nor was there much surprise. He didn't lack beauties around him, nor did he lack fans. What he lacked was talent. However, compared to others, she was considered amazing. After all, she didn't have the heavenly holy grail and cheated the whole time. She completely relied on her own ability to do those things. Alright, she was actually smarter than him. Her IQ was at least 150, but it didn't seem to be of any special use. As he took the lead and stepped into the conference room, countless curious, disgusted, and admiring gazes were cast at him. In an instant, he became the focus of the entire World Language Conference. Qin Guang was a little regretful. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have come. It was quite awkward. Forget it. Since he was already here, he might as well take things as they come. He adjusted his mentality slightly and smiled at the crowd looking at him. Then he waved his hand and continued to lead the way in. Tianguang Brokerage was the only organization that assisted in organizing the World Language Conference. Furthermore, it was a big financial backer that offered a huge sum of money. As the chairman of Tianguang Brokerage, Qin Guang's academic status aside, at the very least he should be at the top of the conference. Previously, when he had just set off from the Tianyi Hotel, the Wuxia Language Association and the staff in charge of organizing here had already received the news. His seat was placed right in the middle of the podium. Walking along the red-carpeted path, Qin Guang walked in with large strides. He didn't care about the gazes and discussions of others along the way. The bright moon shines on the great river and the cool breeze caresses the hills. Whatever you say, I won't lose anything anyway. He knew that many of these people weren't happy with him. That was understandable. Think about it from another perspective. If you were an old scholar in the field of linguistics and a celebrity suddenly popped out of nowhere and sponsored the world's most prestigious academic conference with his money, then boasted about himself to the skies and even wanted to participate in the competition, any scholar with a bit of a temper would be furious, right? They would definitely feel that he was using money to trample on their dignity. What was even more infuriating was that even if they were unhappy, they still had to come. If they had the chance, they would want to give it a try. That was a prize pool of 100 million renminbi. Who wouldn't be tempted? Just thinking about it made him feel sorry for them. I like how you guys can't stand me but can't do anything about it. That was what old Master Guang thought to himself. When Qin Guang got closer, a middle-aged man quickly walked down from the rostrum and approached him warmly. He stretched out his hand. Hello, Mr. Qin. I've heard a lot about you. You're indeed a young talent. Qin Guang shook his hand but turned to look at Lu Xiaoyang awkwardly. Lu Xiaoyang saw the opportunity and hurriedly introduced, President Qin, this is the president of the China Language Association, Mr. Huang Changming. Qin Guang put on a look of realization. Hello, President Huang. It's been hard on you. How am I a young talent? I don't deserve that. He thought to himself, considering how long I've lived in the world of cups, it's better for you to call me a living fossil talent. Huang Changming was furious. Bro, you spent 140 million on the World Language Conference and you don't even know me. Do you think that 140 million is cabbage? After a brief moment of awkwardness, Qin Guang treated Huang Changming politely. After all, they were partners. It was better to leave some leeway for them to meet in the future. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Huang Changming led Qin Guang to the direction of the other people near the rostrum. The president of the China Language Association finally understood that Qin Guang definitely did not know anyone. Even if it was just for show, he had to introduce him to prevent any awkwardness later on. Yu Hong, Lu Xiaoyang and the others did not sit on the rostrum. There were more and more people in the conference hall and they still had work to do. Although today's academic conference wasn't broadcasted live on satellite TV, Bamboo and Twitch were streaming it live online. However, the content today was not very attractive. The only highlight was Qin Guang himself. The number of viewers for the live broadcast would not be too high, but today was also a preview for tomorrow. Today all the preparations were done. Tomorrow they could use the new live broadcast technology that fused VR and AR more maturely. In a sense, this was probably the first 4K level VR live broadcast in the world. It could be considered an industry milestone. Coincidentally, because of Qin Guang's incident, Bamboo and the foreign giant Twitch met. Central TV, Sky Sports and ABC also got involved. A total of 5 industry leaders met in such a hasty cooperation. Due to the suddenness of the incident, there was not much time for these companies to negotiate and wrangle. In order to ensure that this project, which had been hastily invested a lot of money, did not fail and instead put aside their grudges, contributed manpower and shared technology. This gave them a very short period of time to form what could be called the best team in the industry. It was a pity that such a heavyweight team, the best technical staff and the world's first 4K level VR live broadcast were actually used in an academic forum like the World Language Conference instead of a top sports event like the World Cup or the Olympics. It was a pity. President Qin, this is Mr. Park Kangnam. He is a famous professor at Seoul University, and one of the executive directors of the World Language Association. This is Mr. Butler Guy, an honorary professor at Oxford University, and also one of the executive directors of the World Language Association. Huang Changming brought Qin Guang forward 2 steps and went directly behind Park Kangnam and Butler's seats. He enthusiastically introduced them to Qin Guang. Qin Guang had seen these 2 people's comments about him when he was watching the news. They were very rude and they almost picked up a foot basin and splashed it on his head. He did not feel very comfortable and did not want to pay attention to these 2 people. However, it was difficult to reject Huang Changming's hospitality, so he forced a smile on his face. Unexpectedly, when Qin Guang came over, Park Kangnam and Butler Guy sat on their seats. Not to mention getting up to greet Qin Guang, the 2 of them did not even turn their faces. They were still whispering to each other. This time Huang Changming and Qin Guang were embarrassed. This was a standard example of putting a warm face on a cold buttocks. It was a very stiff feeling. Even Qin Guang was dumbfounded. He initially thought that he could be considered arrogant by squeezing out a smile. In the end, these 2 people surpassed him. They simply treated him as air. I lost. Although I also wanted to do this, these 2 people actually beat me to it. He never thought that the old man who had been in the pugilistic world for many years would actually be beaten by others in acting cool. This was simply the greatest humiliation of his life. He could not tolerate it. Chapter 860. Qin Guang turned to look at Huang Changming unhappily. If you hadn't dragged me here, I wouldn't have tried to greet these 2 pretentious B***stars. I wouldn't have been plotted against. A man needs his face, a tree needs its bark. What's the most important? Face is the most important. This is infuriating the old man. At this moment, the comments in Qin Guang's personal live broadcast room were exploding. This is too much. When has Brother All-Rounder ever been humiliated? When has anyone dared to act so pretentiously in front of Brother All-Rounder? How can this be tolerated? Be careful that Brother Allrounder's 30 million fans on Weibo and live broadcast room will drown you with their spittle. Are you afraid of 30 million fans? In every 200 people on Earth, there is one fan of Brother Allrounder, okay? Thinking about it, this is really impressive. These two are too arrogant. Brother Allrounder is standing and greeting them and they don't even move their butts? And they pretend not to hear it? Arrogant my A asteriscus. Whoever divulges the phone numbers of these two, Baldy Glory Brotherhood's third team will immediately blow them up. The bomber will set off immediately. The Anti-Light Alliance is here. Who dares to be rash? Make them doubt their lives. Maybe they are dissatisfied with Brother Allrounder's arrogance. This isn't strange. But they are too lacking in bearing. They don't give him any face. I feel that these two are unlucky. Brother Allrounder will beat them up, right? How is that possible? This is such a big conference venue. How can he beat people up? Does this mean that Brother Allrounder is going to suffer? After all, he has invested so much money in this matter. He should be more tolerant to prevent trouble, right? On the other side, Huang Changming was being held up by Butler and Pu Tsongnan. He was also very uncomfortable. Qin Guang's eyes were filled with displeasure. He felt a chill in his heart. He felt wronged. Huang Changming thought to himself, I didn't expect these two to be so inconsiderate. Qin Guang took a deep breath and suppressed his temper. Just as the comments said, this was a public place. Most of the people in the conference were scholars. This academic conference today could be considered as the most prestigious conference in the field of language in the world. If he were to just throw his fists at him, he would be at a disadvantage for no reason, and it would also bring about a negative impact. However, if he were to turn around and leave just like that, he would feel extremely unhappy. Especially after he heard that Butler Guy and Park Kangnam had signed up for tomorrow's competition, he felt that he couldn't just walk away. Although these two scoundrels were terrible people since they were so bad at handling things, they still managed to become permanent directors of the World Language Association. Didn't that mean that they had real talent? With him around, they naturally wouldn't have a share in the championship, but the total prize pool was as high as 100 million. Even if they were to get into the top 10, the money would still be a lot. At the thought of this, old Master Guang, who never wanted to lose out, felt even more disgusted. Not only did he make them lose face, but he also gave them the cold shoulder. Later on, he even had to pay out of his own pocket to give them a bonus. Was there anything more infuriating than this? Other than having their ancestral graves dug up and having their foreheads cuckolded, there was probably nothing else like this, right? So, I have to do something to make these two pay the price. I won't let them get a single cent. Didn't you say that I used money to insult your professionalism? In the end, didn't you two say that you were participating in the competition? Don't talk about the honor of scholars. You're here for the old man's money. Mr. Butler, Mr. Park, this is the sponsor of this World Language Conference, the chairman of Tingguang Agency, Mr. Qin Guang. Huang Changming also threw caution to the wind. Although Butler and Park Kangnam had high positions in the World Language Association, they were still far away. After thinking about it, he still couldn't afford to offend Qin Guang. He stood behind the two of them and patted their shoulders with his hands. Butler Guy and Park Kangnam couldn't pretend that they didn't see anything this time. The two of them turned their heads slightly and looked at Huang Changming. They snorted and said, "Hello, President Huang." The two of them still ignored Qin Guang. Qin Guang calculated in his heart. He couldn't let the two of them finish showing off like this. He had to talk to them. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to trick them. So he brought out his world-class acting skills. This time, a sincere smile bloomed on his face. It was the kind that could warm people's hearts. At the same time, he extended his hand to shake hands with the two of them. I don't believe that you can still pretend to be blind. The two of them were still facing Qin Guang. They looked at him, but their lips didn't seem to move at all. They were still sitting firmly on their chairs. Only a muffled sound came from their throats. Park Kangnam, Qin Guang, hello. Butler Guy said, hello. Then the two of them didn't move. They just hung Qin Guang's hand in the air and turned their bodies to look in front of them. It was as if this matter didn't concern them. In addition, the two of them seemed to be deliberately not giving face to Qin Guang. Park Kangnam also used Korean and Butler also used Turkish. Both of them could speak Mandarin. It was clear that they didn't give face at all. Huang Changming's face turned pale. He was already cursing in his heart. Are you too sick in the head? In any case, Qin Guang is half the host of this World Language Conference. As a guest, even if his previous performance wasn't right and he was a bit too arrogant, you two don't even give him a chance to step down? To not give face to him to this extent, the two of you can be considered to be the first time in history. Not far away, Chu Zijin had been holding onto Qin Guang's phone and pointing it in their direction. She still faithfully played the role of a live broadcast host. Her pair of beautiful big eyes blinked as she stared straight at Qin Guang's face. She also wanted to know how Qin Guang would react in such a situation. Qin Guang was still smiling brilliantly. One couldn't tell that he was angry at all. He retracted his hand and put it in his pocket before saying, "Yo, bad asterisk male teacher, it isn't winter yet. Why is it so cold? Why is it so hard to take your hand out of your pocket?" Then he didn't wait for Park Kangnam to speak. He turned his head and said to Butler, "Teacher Barrett, you too?" These two sentences were said in Chinese. "Park Kangnam, my name is Park Kangnam. I'm not a bad asterisk male." Butler also said, "I'm Butler, not a Barrett sniper rifle." Qin Guang laughed. "It seems like the two of you know Chinese." "Of course. There isn't a mainstream language that we don't know." Qin Guang suddenly glared at them. "Then why were the two of you acting cool in front of me just now? Coming to my territory, you know Chinese but don't speak Chinese? I wanted to shake hands with you, but your hands seem to be frozen in your pockets. You call yourself a scholar? You call yourself an executive director? What kind of joke is this? Why are you acting cool?" The two of them were instantly dumbfounded. Huang Changming didn't expect that Qin Guang, who was smiling just a moment ago, would suddenly turn hostile. "Why are you looking at me? I'm talking about the two of you. I've seen many old hooligans, but I've never seen someone as bad as the two of you. Each of you looks to be equivalent to two of me. You're all people with one foot in the grave. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by others for making life difficult for a young man like me?" Qin Guang took advantage of his victory and continued to attack. The two of them were caught off guard by his sudden outburst. The two of them were well-respected scholars in the academic world. They had never encountered Qin Guang's style before. "You're the chairman of a large company and a billionaire. How can you speak like this?" Qin Guang's live broadcast room was filled with jubilation. "I knew it. Brother All-Purpose is really mad. How can he be defeated like this? Teacher Barrett, Brother All-Purpose's mouth is quite poisonous. Let's see what these two old fools will do. They will fight, right? I don't think so. They should know that Brother All-Purpose is good at fighting. They aren't stupid. Then they'll just admit defeat." On the other side, Huang Changming saw that the situation was worsening and didn't know what to do. After thinking about it, he still felt that it was better to be closer to Qin Guang. Thus he tried to pull Qin Guang from behind and make him restrain himself. Unexpectedly, Pu Kangnam slammed the table and stood up. He glared at Qin Guang and said, "What do you mean by this?" Butler originally planned to endure it, but since his ally had already taken action, it wasn't good for him to continue holding it in. He also stood up. "Mr. Qin, you better give us an explanation. Otherwise, I'll think that you're humiliating us." Qin Guang crossed his hands and smiled insincerely. "What do I mean? That's right, I'm humiliating you. So what? You can't accept it? What do you intend to do? Everyone here is a reputable person. Do you want to fight? I'll keep you company. Although this is my territory, I promise I won't call for help. I'll deal with the two of you alone. Otherwise, people will say that I'm bullying the elderly. There's an old saying in China, refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Now I'll give it to the two of you. You only have this bit of skill with your mouth. Mr. Butler and I are both learned people. We won't lower ourselves to your level." Honestly speaking, this Pu Kangnam's Chinese was pretty good. His choice of words and sentences was quite good. It wasn't any worse than an authentic Chinese. Butler snorted and sat back on his chair. He looked at the empty space in front of him with a straight face. He put on an expression that said, "I'm a learned person and won't lower myself to your level." Qin Guang was overjoyed. It was about time to get on the right track. He snorted coldly. "Learned people? I don't think so. In my impression, learned people are all extremely cultured and self-restrained masters. I know that the two of you don't feel comfortable. I also admit that what I said in front of the reporters wasn't that humble. But I'm a young man. I haven't even graduated from university. I'm just a kid. I'm not sensible, right? But the two of you are different. You are both learned people, right? Why are you acting like hoodlums on the streets? I took the initiative to greet you, but you sat there and pretended to be mysterious. I wanted to shake hands with you, but you put me there? No matter how I look at it, it's the two of you who lost your share first, right? Without waiting for the two of them to speak, he continued to attack. The two of you started the fight first. Aren't you going to let me have a little temper? Pu Kangnam's lips trembled. He couldn't say anything for a long time. Butler's face was also flushed. The veins on his neck were bulging. He was panting heavily. He looked like a patient who had a heart attack. When it came to cursing, even if there were 80 to 100 Pu Kangnam and Butler added together, they still wouldn't be a match for Qin Guang. Moreover, Qin Guang had successfully turned the battlefield into Chinese. If it was another language, it wouldn't make any difference to him. However, Pu Kangnam and Butler wouldn't have performed so badly. Chapter 861. That's because we can't stand the sight of you using money to humiliate knowledge. After a long time, Park Songnan finally found a suitable excuse for his and Butler's arrogance. Butler Gay also nodded. That's right. You simply don't know anything. You don't even know what language is. You can appear at this event and sit on this stage only because you have money. Qin Guang chuckled. That's not right. Since knowledge is so noble and money is so cheap in the eyes of the two of you, why did you sign up for tomorrow's competition? Didn't the two of you sign up for the prize money? The two of you are indeed very knowledgeable in your actions and actions. Duan set up? Although they could speak Chinese, Butler and Park Songnan didn't really understand Qin Guang's trendy internet slang. Qin Guang smiled again. Since you asked so sincerely, I'll be merciful and tell you. Duan set up means that you are a whore and also a chastity. You. Be asterisk starred. Butler was so angry that his mouth was crooked. On the other side, Huang Changming saw that the situation couldn't be stopped and didn't want to let it escalate. He turned around and wanted to snatch the phone from Chu Zijin's hand. He heard that there was a live broadcast. This was a family scandal and it couldn't be spread out. But Chu Zijin wouldn't let him succeed. She took a step to the side and glared at the president of the Chinese Language Association. Xiao Chen didn't say to turn off the live broadcast, so you can't turn it off. Huang Changming's hand froze in midair. He didn't know whether he should snatch it or not. Chu Zijin tried to persuade him again, but she didn't bother him anymore. President Huang, it's fine. Xiao Chen isn't an unreasonable person. Huang Changming was about to cry. Xiao Chen wasn't an unreasonable person, but the other party was the one who provoked him first. He had a reason to flare up. This was also very difficult to deal with, okay? Didn't you see that many people in such a big venue were looking over here as if they were watching a good show? Park Songnan slammed the table again. Nonsense. Barrett and I, oh no, Mr. Butler, just don't like the way you look down on the world's scholars. We want to teach you the principle that there will always be someone better than you out there. This has nothing to do with your smelly prize money. We're not interested in that bit of prize money. Qin Guang's eyes lit up. Really? Of course. Pu Songnan and Butler said at the same time. Qin Guang immediately seized the opportunity and said, then I'll remember what you two said. Even if you get a ranking, I won't give you your bonus, okay? Pu Songnan and Butler Guy were instantly anxious. This fellow was purposely digging a hole for them to jump into. Pu Songnan, how can this be? Are you kidding me? Butler was also anxious. What right do you have to cancel the prize money for such a large-scale competition? Even if you're sponsoring the competition, you can't do this. Qin Guang shrugged. But didn't you say that you weren't interested in the prize money? Pu Kangnam argues, not being interested doesn't mean that we will hand over the benefits we deserve. This doesn't make sense. He felt extremely pained. He had just acted tough, but he didn't expect Qin Guang to have no bottom line. He treated the prize money of such a high-end competition as child's play. However, Qin Guang had the ability to do what he said. After all, he was the sponsor of the competition and he would be the one to distribute the prize money. If he really did that, he would indeed lose face internationally, but his own situation wouldn't be any better. Wouldn't it be too shameful to say it out loud? She couldn't chase after him like a shrew on the street, could she? That would really be a loss of face. How infuriating. Butler Gay also said heavily, that's right. Whether we want the bonus or not and what to do with it after we get it, that's our business. But you can't just say no. Are you trying to turn this grand event into a farce? Qin Guang looked at the two teasingly. Look at you two being so coy. I feel tired for you. Puchi. Chu Zijin, who was the host of the live broadcast, couldn't help but cover her mouth and snicker. At this moment, Huang Changming finally reacted to Qin Guang's words. Why did the two of them suddenly talk about the prize money? Could that be his true motive? But this wasn't appropriate. Although Pu Kangnam and Butler were very annoying, a competition was a competition. Now that everyone was paying attention to it, how could he not distribute the prize money just because he said so? Far away in the Guangdong General Office building, the two deputy directors Xen Qin and Wu Miaowan, who were supposed to be busy every day, shut the office door tightly and hung a "Do Not Disturb" sign. They looked very busy, but in fact the two of them were squatting in front of the computer, happily watching the live broadcast. I knew this guy would definitely do something. Xen Qin looked as if she had already seen through Qin Guang's intentions. Wu Miaowan nodded repeatedly. That's right. Although this guy spends money extravagantly and gives the prize money as if it's free, others should at least give him face if they want to take his money. These two foreigners are too stupid. They want to show off and take money at the same time. How can there be such a good thing? Xen Qin said, but isn't this a little too stiff? Even if this matter is over, I'm afraid it will affect him doing other similar things in the future, right? Wu Miaowan looked up at the ceiling and thought for a while. That's true, but he should have another way of saying it, right? The comments in Qin Guang's live broadcast were also filled with jubilation. Some people felt that he was going too far, being unreasonable because he was the sponsor of the competition, but more people were overjoyed. What are you guys using to argue with Brother All-Rounder? This is called showing off for a moment, and now they're sending Brother All-Rounder's entire family to the crematorium. Brother All-Rounder is right. These two old thieves want to make money, but they're still stubborn and pretend to be noble and cool. They're too cunning. That's right, they're not straightforward at all. If they like money, they can just say it. It's not like it's something shameful. What do you guys know? They're all learned people and they're very elegant. How can they bow down for 5 buckets of rice? But the prize pool is 100 million, which can buy tens of millions of tons of rice. Then their waists have already been broken. Now they're just stubborn. How pitiful. I'm about to have an outbreak of the cancer of awkwardness just by looking at them. Cancer of awkwardness +1. In the live broadcast, Qin Guang spoke again. Looks like the two of you are very confident. You've even thought of how to spend the prize money. Pu Kangnam and Butler said in unison, of course. The two of them were not unconfident. The two of them were able to become the permanent directors of the World Language Association because they were rare Broca area awakened. In addition, they had been immersed in languages for many years, and each of them had mastered more than 30 languages. They were truly talented. But I don't think so. There's an ancient saying in Wuxia to have both virtue and talent. Wuxia people pay attention to learning how to be a person first before learning how to do knowledge. I don't see much virtue in you guys, and I don't think you're talented. Pu Kangnam said heavily, **T. There are no more than 10 linguists in the world who can be compared to me and Butler. Butler guy nodded. That's right. Then, let's make a bet. Qin Guang finally showed his fox's tail. Tang Ying, who had been secretly watching the live broadcast from her office in Wujing City Hospital, immediately stood up. It appeared. What a familiar expression. This guy is using this shameless trick again. Looks like he's really confident. These two old things are going to be in big trouble. Wait a minute. Tang Ying's body stiffened again. Although she didn't know what he wanted to bet on, it was definitely related to him winning the competition. Those two old foreigners would be in big trouble if they lost, but she wouldn't be any better off either. Tang Ying's face turned red and her right hand gently rubbed her chest. She didn't know why, but she had a bad premonition. She felt sorry for her chest in advance. This guy is so fierce. I won't be crushed by him, right? I won't have a few broken ribs, right? Forget it. When the boat reaches the bridgehead, it will straighten itself out. Things haven't happened yet, so there's no need to think so much. Pu Kangnam and Butler guy were indeed fooled. Pu Kangnam, let's bet. Butler, what are we betting on? With a smile, Qin Guang continued, seeing how confident you guys are, I feel that the championship is already in my bag. I'll bet with you. If I become the champion, no matter what your ranking is, I will donate the prize money to a charity organization researching Lou Gehrig's disease. If I lose the championship, no matter what your ranking is, I will give you 3 times the prize money. That's right. 3 times. How about it? Do you want to bet? Butler and Pu Kangnam were stunned. Their minds were spinning fast and they almost thought they had heard wrongly. If Mr. Butler or I win the championship, the prize money will be tripled? Qin Guang snorted. That's right. I am a man of my word. I will never go back on it. Then he waved at Chu Zicheng and pointed at the mobile phone in Miss Chu's hand. I am broadcasting right now. Tens of millions of viewers in my broadcasting room are listening. They are all witnesses. I will do what I say. I can even get someone to write a contract on the spot. How about it? Do you dare to bet? Actually, there were only about 2 million viewers in the broadcasting room. But since he didn't have to pay taxes for bragging, it was already considered low-key that he didn't brag to 17 billion. Pu Kangnam and Butler Guy looked at each other. They could see the light in each other's eyes getting brighter and brighter. No matter who won the championship, the prize money would increase from 50 million renminbi to 150 million renminbi. Even if they didn't win the championship, getting into the top 5 or top 3 would still be tens of millions of RMB. The most important thing was, how was Qin Guang going to win the championship? Including the two of them, there were at least 5 or 6 awakened ones from the Broca region who came to participate in the competition. Only God knew how many peerless geniuses were attracted by the huge prize money. Basically, all the geniuses from all over the world had come. There were many hidden dragons and crouching tigers in this competition. Where did this guy get his confidence from? As long as the competition was fair and just, the probability of him winning the championship was almost negligible. Then it's settled. Chapter 862. The competition of the World's Language Conference had attracted a lot of attention. Numerous people were watching the competition. So, it was impossible for him to cheat. Moreover, the audience was not stupid. Everyone was watching. Even if he was a black whistle, his results would not be recognized by the world. So he would win for sure. This is a bet with a small capital but great profits. Won't we win all your underwear? Lu Xiaoyang, who happened to pass by, overheard Qin Guang's words. He rushed up anxiously and said, President Qin, don't do this. We don't have enough cash in the company. This guy is here again. He is a professional at destroying morale and boosting others' prestige for 20 years. Qin Guang waved his hand. It doesn't matter. I have enough cash. Seeing this, Pu and Ba said at the same time for fear that Qin Guang would go back on his word. Okay. We accept the bet. It was Lu Xiaoyang's advice that made them make a decision and eliminate the last hesitation in their hearts. Qin Guang was stunned for a moment. He thought they would push him again. He didn't expect these two old guys would be so decisive. Then he realized it was Lu Xiaoyang's hindrance that made them make up their minds. He was overjoyed. Buttface is awesome. Qin Guang waved his hand happily. Buttface, did you hear what I said just now? Go and prepare a contract. Just write it according to what I said just now. Bring it to us now and let us sign it. President Qin, this. Lu Xiaoyang still wanted to persuade him. Qin Guang put on a straight face. Just do it. Don't talk nonsense. Even if I lose, the company will not be affected. I told you it is my personal investment. Lu Xiaoyang left with his head hung low. Seeing Lu Xiaoyang's frustration, Pu Tsongnan and Butler Gay were even more complacent. Huang Changming was also dumbfounded. He had never expected that Qin Guang would make such a strange bet after chatting with these two guys. Looking left, right, up and down, I feel that Qin Guang is the one suffering a loss. Was there any other explanation for this other than having too much money? Forget it. It was his own money anyway. He was rich and could do whatever he wanted. Chu Zijin's mouth was wide open and her face was full of confusion. Although she was not short of money, she had never seen Qin Guang spend money so extravagantly. No, this could no longer be called extravagant. This was simply King retarded. Fortunately, I am your fanatical fan. Fortunately, in my heart you are very strong. Fortunately, I feel that you will most likely win. If it were someone else, they would have probably called the mental hospital. There was also an uproar in Qin Guang's live stream. Is Brother Almighty crazy? Did they think 140 million wasn't enough to make them explode? I know these two. They're very powerful. It's entirely possible for them to win the championship. More than 3,000 people are participating in the competition. Who would bet like this? Isn't this a free gift? He should bet on the two of them winning the championship or achieving some ranking. Who would bet on themselves winning the championship? Let's make the worst assumption. One of these two people wins the championship and the other is the second place. Let's calculate how much prize money does Brother Almighty have to pay out. The prize money for the first place is 50 million, and the prize money for the second place is 20 million. I count with my fingers, a total of 240 million. It's 140 million more than what he planned to pay before. Including the 40 million investment that the World Language Club has already taken out, a total of 280 million will be spent. This money is not money at all. That's right. Does he have so much money? God knows. Not to mention the people in the barrage, even Jin Shuiwei and Zhang Yage, who were secretly watching the livestream, began to discuss in their hearts whether they should pay out of their own pockets to help this crazy and unstoppable guy. On the other hand, Lu Fei, who was still inspecting the project in Wutuo town, was relatively calm. She knew that Qin Guang had won a large sum of money in the Xianxia car race and had not used it yet. He should be able to afford it if he spent all his money. On the campus of Gokyo University, Lin Jingwei and the others who were also watching the livestream did not want to say a word. Xiong it's over. Brother Guang secretly stopped taking the medicine again. Little Lin, why didn't you go to Yanjing to stop him? Gao Ye accused. Lin Jingwei felt wronged. I didn't know he was so crazy. Bai Fan was in tears. So much money. So much money. How good would it be for me to make a movie or TV series? How big of a production could it be? Brother Guang, why do you have to make life so difficult for yourself? My heart hurts so much that I can't breathe. Son Xiaoxuan, if he is really bankrupt, what can I do to comfort him? With a heavy heart, Yu Hong and Lu Xiaoyang finished drafting the VM agreement. They printed and stamped it and brought it to Qin Guang, Butler and the others. Under the gaze of countless people and cursing Qin Guang in their hearts, Qin Guang and the other two signed their names and stamped their thumbs. The contract took effect immediately. Qin Guang shook his hand. The contract has 4 copies. One for each of you, one for me and one for my company. That's it. Lu Xiaoyang and Yu Hong, happy your face. How blind and unlucky do we have to be to work for your company? When Qin Guang finally sat down on the rostrum and no longer looked for trouble, Lu Xiaoyang carefully probed. Mr. Qin, why don't we cash in the 100,000 yen first? I don't know why, but I suddenly have a strong urge to go home and work as a farmer. Qin Guang stepped on Lu Xiaoyang's foot. I was going to praise you for your cooperation. If you hadn't pretended to be a coward, they wouldn't have agreed so quickly. President Qin, I was not pretending to be a coward. I was really a coward, okay? Why don't you be a coward with me? How can you bet like this? Are you stupid? Qin Guang curled his lips. What do you know? I didn't leave any money for them. I know the reason, but I can't understand it. So I am President Qin and you are Buttface. You can only work for me. Ordinary people don't understand the realm of the old man, learn from him. Qin Guang spread his hands. Lu Xiaoyang, I can't learn it. On the other side, Pu Tsongnan and Butler Guy, who had made a bet with Qin Guang, were feeling very pleased with themselves. There were actually quite a few people who came to congratulate them in advance. Qin Guang looked at them quietly. Others laugh at me for being crazy, but I laugh at them for not seeing through me. Oh, President Qin, have you prepared a speech for the academic conference? Huang Changming, who was sitting next to him, spent a lot of effort to calm himself down and tried to find something to talk about. Qin Guang shook his head. I won't speak. I didn't prepare a speech. Moreover, didn't you see the way those academics look at me? I guess they don't like to hear me speak. Then what are you going to do today? Qin Guang pondered for a moment. Just treat me as a mascot. I'll just be sitting here as a decoration to show that Tianguang's management regards today's meeting with great importance. There's no other use. Is that so? When it's about time, I will escape. You guys can do whatever you want. That's not a good idea. I have to go to the Shudian Film City later. The women that I invested in is being filmed there. It's very busy. Qin Guang found a good excuse for himself to escape. Chu Zijin, who had been acting as a cameraman and host behind him, rolled her eyes silently. Save it. Although I'm not from your company, I'm quite clear about your movements. Ever since the press conference, you haven't called Director Deng at all. Now you're concerned about the movie you invested in? Furthermore, who would sit in the center of the podium escape? They're not blind. Chu Zijin was actually a little regretful. Just like how Qin Guang didn't have much of an impression of her, her impression of Qin Guang wasn't as perfect as she had imagined through the screen or the internet. Once upon a time, the omnipotent Superman in her heart, although not a man of indomitable spirit, was definitely brimming with talent, brimming with an aura that made people admire him. At least in his videos and live shows, he was such a perfect and impeccable person. He had never failed. No matter what he did, others could only bow to him. Now that she had seen him in person, she could not see his talent for the time being. But his temperament was not like Zhuge Liang's, who was wise and resourceful. Instead, he did things in all kinds of ways without any pattern and always seemed to like to make decisions. His way of doing things without considering the cause and effect at all made Chu Zijin feel a little disappointed. Forget it, let's wait and see for a while more. Maybe she had pictured him too perfectly in her mind before. Just like those internet beauties, they were all beautiful like fairies in photos, but when they met in person they were all demons and ghosts. Listening to the bewitching sound, Qin Guang yawned heavily. He regretted coming to this place more and more. It was really boring beyond imagination. Those scholars and researchers were on the podium talking about their results from last year. The people in the venue were scholars from all over the world. At the very least, they were insiders who had signed up for tomorrow's competition. These people were all listening with great interest. As the highest forum in the world of linguistics, those who were allowed to speak at the conference were really capable. For example, it was written in the conference's table of contents. Today's topics were all-inclusive and of extremely high levels. Where did he discover a new language system? What new rules had been found in the teaching and learning methods of a certain language? What new achievements had been made in the systematic learning method of the Latin department? When humans were learning to communicate, which part of the brain was the most active? Using electric pulses to stimulate the brain, whether it could effectively enhance language learning ability. Humans of different races and languages, whether the part of the brain in charge of communication was in the same place, and so on. Chapter 863. Qin Guang found the things that other people liked boring. Fortunately, I caught these two pretentious old fools. Otherwise, I would have wasted my entire morning. If he hadn't come today, these two wouldn't have had the chance to act pretentious, but they would still not take him seriously in their hearts. Even if he won the championship, he would still have to give them money. Just thinking about it made him feel as uncomfortable as eating a fly. Now his thoughts were quite clear. It was as if he had been constipated for a long time. Huang Changming didn't give him the chance to pee. He stared at him the whole time. After all, the main seat in the center of the podium was too conspicuous. It would be too much of a bummer if someone was missing from the podium while the others were talking about the thesis. Qin Guang had no choice but to change his mind. He planned to leave after the meeting was over. Chu Zijin sat behind Qin Guang and pointed her phone at the back of Qin Guang's head. Although she didn't major in linguistics, she was still very interested in the research results shared by these scholars. On the other hand, Qin Guang's livestream was filled with sorrow, and the number of viewers was also dropping. The reason was simple. The thesis was in English. Most people couldn't understand it, and there was no simultaneous translation. Moreover, even if they could understand it, they would find it boring if they weren't in the relevant industry. Even Qin Guang felt uncomfortable sitting in his chair, not to mention the other viewers who could only look at the back of his head. Yawn. Qin Guang couldn't hold it in. He opened his mouth wide and yawned. Tears even came out of his eyes. Huang Changming was very embarrassed. He whispered, "Mr. Qin, hold on a little longer. When Butler Gay finishes his thesis, it will be lunch break." Qin Guang was rubbing his eyes. When he heard it was Butler's thesis, he suddenly became energetic. "That guy has a thesis too? What's it about?" Huang Changming opened the conference proceedings. "Mr. Qin, it's all written here. It's a study of the Saimo tribe in the Amazon of South America." When Qin Guang flipped to this page, his eyes slowly brightened. Huang Changming got goosebumps from the look in his eyes. He already had experience with this. President Qin seemed to be happy, which meant that he was up to no good. "Interesting, very interesting," Qin Guang whispered as he watched. Huang Changming broke out in a cold sweat. "Are you all right?" Qin Guang ignored him and turned to look at Butler Gay, who was also on the podium and 5 or 6 people away from him. Coincidentally, that guy was also sneaking a peek at Qin Guang. Sparks flew as their gazes met. Butler Gay raised his eyebrows provocatively. He then looked at the thesis collection in his hand and gestured at Qin Guang. His meaning couldn't be more obvious. Take a good look, kid. This is my academic achievement. What do you have? Qin Guang's smile widened. As an honorary professor at Oxford, Butler Gay's main purpose in attending this conference was to participate in the competition and earn some prize money. However, with his status in the academic world since he was already here, he certainly could not come empty-handed. He had to say something at the conference so that his reputation would not be tarnished. It just so happened that his recent research had just matured. It was just right for him to choose to present the relevant thesis at the world's highest academic conference. The content of his thesis came from an endangered indigenous language called Sangmo that he discovered 5 years ago during his research in South America. As a brand new language that had just been discovered, the Sangmo language was very representative and had typical research value. Unlike other South American languages, this indigenous language was easy to use. It could be communicated with extremely simple words and sounds, and it had formed a script that was completely different from the Latin family. If this small language could be successfully organized and perfected, on the one hand, it could enrich the variety of human languages. On the other hand, it could also help other people to study and further improve the Esperanto that had not yet been popularized. As the discoverer of this language and the first linguist to systematically organize and study it, Butler Gay was worthy of his status as a permanent member of the Esperanto Association to present this result at the world's highest level conference. Even if there were others who followed up on the research, they would be a few months behind him and their progress would be lagging behind. They could only supplement his research results. Of course, he had the right to be proud. Didn't this guy named Qin Guang say that he had no talent? I'll show you what it means to be a scholar and what it means to have a standard. Thank you, everyone. That's all for my speech. The previous speaker finally ended his speech that made Qin Guang drowsy. Sparse applause sounded. Obviously, this guy's thesis did not attract much attention. At best, it was just a fill-in. Butler stood up from his chair and strode straight to the main podium. His steps were firm and he was in high spirits. He knew how valuable the thesis in his hand was. He could even imagine what kind of applause he would receive after he finished speaking. If there were no surprises, this result of his should be one of the highest achievements in the world of linguistics this year. At that time, even if he did not leave his name in the history of the world, at least in the world of linguistics, his status would be greatly improved. Next year would be the time for the re-election of the Esperanto Association. The old president would also reach the retirement age. He had been in the position of a permanent member for many years. It was time for him to take a step forward. Although Butler is a very annoying person, it can't be denied that his research results are indeed very valuable. Just looking at the simple things written in the summary of his thesis is enough to attract people. It can be regarded as a major academic achievement of this year. Huang Changming looked at Butler's back and cautiously said to Qin Guang. Qin Guang chuckled and flipped through the collection of theses disinterestedly. Is it a major one? Then there will be a discussion session after he finishes speaking, right? Huang Changming said anxiously. Yes, there will be about 15 to 20 minutes of Q&A time. Oh, very good. Qin Guang snorted and stopped talking. Instead, he began to close his eyes and rest. Huang Changming's heart was pounding. He had a feeling that something was going to happen, but he could not guess what Qin Guang was thinking, so it was not appropriate for him to ask. Chu Zijin placed the phone behind Qin Guang. The private conversation between the two was recorded by the phone and transmitted to the ears of countless live broadcast viewers. These viewers were more knowledgeable. Although I don't know what Brother Almighty wants to do, it can't be anything good. I think so too. He will definitely cause trouble. If he doesn't cause trouble, he is not Brother Almighty. Whatever, I will mourn for that Barrett for 3 seconds. Upstairs, his name is Butler Gay. He is a world-famous linguist, not Barrett. You have been led into the ditch by Brother Almighty. The ditch is quite warm. I don't want to come up. It's so boring. Why don't everyone send gifts and ask Brother Almighty to sing a song? I don't think I have ever heard him sing. Don't. We are on the same side. Please don't. I was fortunate enough to hear him sing once when I was young. It has only been a month or two, but my friend said I have aged 10 years. That's scary. Isn't he called Brother Almighty? There are people who don't know how to sing. He plays the piano so well, how can he not know how to sing? I'm not joking. This is real. God opened the blinds for him and then closed the shutter door for him. When it comes to singing, Brother Almighty is really not omnipotent. You can't even say that he is incompetent. He is simply evil. He can make the entire world of Azeroth tremble. In order to stop others from trying to get Qin Guang to sing, the fans in the live broadcast room had turned into flommers. They were also doing their best. Although Qin Guang's live broadcast room was not as popular as usual, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. There were at least 1 million viewers, so the number of comments was quite terrifying. This was the sign that he had truly transformed from a phenomenal internet celebrity into a star. On the other side, Butler was in high spirits as he used a cadence to talk about his research. He was indeed very skilled. In his entire academic report, he used concise language to outline the language of the Sangmo tribe, presenting it to the world. His report was able to arouse the interest of others without exposing the core results of his research. More importantly, he clearly told everyone that he only needed a little more than a year to completely master the Sangmo language. Even if others followed up on their research, they would only be able to eat his dust. He got a great bargain. Anyone can do something like this, but he just happened to run into it. Huang Changming didn't like what he heard. He was filled with envy and jealousy, but at the same time, perhaps he wanted to please Qin Guang, so he said this on purpose. Qin Guang smiled indifferently. It's not necessarily a bargain. I think he is still far from it. But Huang Changming didn't understand. Qin Guang waved his hand. You'll know later. The Sangmo language isn't that simple. President Qin, you know it? Qin Guang snorted. I know a thing or two. I'm afraid you'll be scared to death if I say it out loud. This Sangmo language, which is almost obsolete in the eyes of others, is mastered by no more than 20,000 people, is actually like my mother tongue to me. Chu Zijin, who was behind the two of them, silently rolled her eyes. She held the microphone and muttered softly, You're really boasting. You can't possibly know all the languages in this world, right? Countless people in Qin Guang's live broadcast room were also laughing and making a ruckus. Brother All-Rounder is getting more and more shameless. I like how shameless he is. Qin Guang turned around and glanced at her, then looked at his phone and smiled at the camera. Then his face suddenly became extremely serious and gloomy. Chu Zijin felt goosebumps when she saw his expression. She thought to herself, he can't be so petty, right? She had only teased him by saying that he was boasting shamelessly. Did he have to be like this? Qin Guang snorted. You know too much. Chu Zijin, the live comments. His left and right hand in front of the live broadcast, the two deputy directors of the Guangdong General Administration Wu Tong Tang-ing and Lin Jingwei from Gokyo University all let out a pft. Siga, he's so pretentious. Chapter 864. Butler Gay's paper finally came to an end. Alright, that's all for today. Please feel free to ask your questions. Currently, the research on the Sangmo language has entered the final stage of systematic induction. There's nothing I can't say. I have a question. The moment he said it, Qin Guang stood up abruptly from the rostrum in the front row and said in a loud voice. Butler froze and stared blankly at Qin Guang, who was only a few meters away from him. His mind was blank as he thought, this is an academic conference. What can this guy ask? The huge conference hall was also silent for a moment. It was so silent that even a pin drop could be heard. Then people began to whisper to each other. The scholars were confused. What the hell was going on? Many people had seen Qin Guang's drowsy and absent-minded appearance when someone else was giving a speech. They knew that the knowledge that they viewed as a treasure was meaningless in the eyes of those who weren't professionals. As a rich young man, Qin Guang sat here today to boost the reputation of the World's Language Club, which he sponsored. He had shown enough respect to Qin Guang, and there was no reason to force him to pretend to be a good student and listen attentively to the lecture. There was nothing wrong with this. Although some people would look down on his ignorant and incompetent appearance, there was no reason to criticize him. But why did he suddenly have something to say after Butler threw out such a heavyweight academic paper? Could it be that Qin Guang, the sponsor of the World's Language Club, wanted to cause trouble and ruin things because of the conflict between them? This is too much. In Qin Guang's livestream room, he's coming. Brother All-Rounder is going to show off. Who can stop him? Only a thunderstorm can strike him to death, right? Obviously, it's impossible. Here's the problem. This is a high-level academic conference and he's giving a speech in public. You can't scold him, right? What's he going to do? God knows. Let's just watch quietly. Even those who were familiar with Qin Guang were at a loss, let alone the viewers in the live streaming room. They really did not think that he could say anything high-level. Only Wu Tong, who knew how good he was curious. This Sangmo language was not as unpopular as the Buramuru language that he had deciphered previously. Perhaps this fellow was really proficient in it. Mr. Qin, do you have any objections? Butler Gay suppressed the anger in his heart and said coldly with a calm face. Qin Guang waved his hand. It's nothing, Mr. Butler. I have some doubts about one of the statements in your academic report and I have to say it out loud. Butler thought to himself, shut up, you ignorant and incompetent nouveau riche, don't embarrass yourself. However, he squeezed out a playful smile. Please go ahead. He really did not believe that Qin Guang could really have any insights. Just now, you said that the Sangmo language is similar to the Chinese language. There are no differences in the past tense and past present tense. However, there are differences in the description of some nouns for males and females. For example, males and females use different words for the same thing. You call this the use of masculine and feminine words, right? Qin Guang suddenly asked. Butler was stunned. This was indeed the content of his thesis, and it was also a question that he had yet to solve. Yes, but sometimes the males in the Sangmo tribe will also use feminine expressions. This phenomenon still needs to be researched. So you don't understand? Qin Guang continued to press him. Yes, I don't know why, but is there a problem with that? Butler really did not think that there was anything wrong with him. This was an unfinished research anyway. Qin Guang laughed. But I can tell you why. In fact, the so-called masculine and feminine nouns have nothing to do with gender. Impossible. I have interviewed at least hundreds of Sangmo tribe members. My data sample is large enough. You are spouting nonsense. Butler waved his hand angrily. Qin Guang, although you are the sponsor of the World Language Club, I hope that you will not interfere with the normal proceedings of the meeting because of your personal conflicts. There are still many people who want to ask questions. Indeed, many people were currently sizing up Qin Guang with extremely unhappy gazes. Lord Guang turned a blind eye to these strange gazes and continued. The reason why you have such an illusion is because you do not have sufficient understanding of the history and culture of the Sangmo tribe. Butler said, illusion? Are you trying to make me laugh? Do you know that you look like a clown now? Clown? No. Very soon you will be a clown, Director Butler. Qin Guang waved his hand and walked up to the podium. He stood in front of Butler and said heavily, I will tell you clearly now that your so-called feminine and masculine is simply the difference between day and night. It is not some laughable difference between men and women. Qin Guang clasped his hands behind his back and continued, before the 18th century in the Sangmo tribe, regardless of whether it was men or women, when they talked about the difference between yin and yang, they would use the difference between day and night. It is not feminine and masculine. Butler was obviously not easily swayed. Are you joking? The female Sangmo tribe members I interviewed used feminine words even during the day. That is because in the past women had a low status in the Sangmo tribe. They were absolutely forbidden from going out during the day. The men of the tribe were basically out hunting during the day, and women could only communicate with others at night. The frequency of women using nighttime words was much higher than daytime words. As time passed, the daytime words were gradually forgotten and abandoned by women. The women of the Sangmo tribe even started using nighttime words during the day. Even earlier, when the Sangmo tribe was still a matriarchal society, when the Sangmo tribe's language was first born, it was completely based on the difference between day and night. For example, the few words that you used to differentiate between masculine and feminine words such as sun, moon, light, wolf, bat, owl, and so on. Think about it, among these things the sun and light only appear during the day, while the moon only appears during the night. Wolves, owls, and bats are also animals that are active at night. Knife, flowing water, big tree. Why are there no differences between masculine and feminine words? Can you explain it clearly? You also said that the men of the Sangmo tribe would also use feminine words. You don't understand the reason, but let me tell you why. It is because you interviewed them at night. Of course, in the recent years there have been changes. No matter what kind of language it is, it will definitely evolve and develop in a direction that is more convenient for communication. In the recent years, with the evolution of time, the distinction between day and night in some words is no longer as clear. This is because the women of this tribe often use nighttime words during the day. Some of the men of this tribe are also influenced and will occasionally use nighttime words during the day. Let me tell you how they used to differentiate day and night. It is not the clock that we commonly use but the sundial. When the sundial's scale crosses the needle that represents the night, they will switch some words to the nighttime words. Do you understand now? Chairman Butler. Oh right, there's one more thing. The reason why you can't learn about this history from the Samo people is because about 200 years ago, they were massacred by another large tribe. Their population dropped from more than 100,000 to less than 30,000. Their historical records were burned to ashes, and many of their respected elders were killed or injured. Their historical inheritance was broken. Butler was dumbfounded. He wanted to say that Qin Guang was just spouting nonsense, but he could not help but recall the various phenomena that he had encountered when he came into contact with the Sangmo tribe. If what Qin Guang said was true, then there was a reasonable explanation for these phenomena. In the history of the Sangmo tribe, there was a great poet called Nidai. It was this poet who organized the originally scattered and disorderly Sangmo language into a system and simplified their inherited language. Now I will read a poem of his for you to listen to. Forest. You are so beautiful. Zebra. You have 4 legs. The dark night gave me big black eyes, but I used them to peep at the widow Wang next door bathing. The last part was read by Qin Guang in fluent Sangmo language. Unfortunately, Butler didn't really understand what he was saying. Even though these words were pronounced in the standard Sangmo language, they were still relatively rare. With Butler's current knowledge of the Sangmo language, he could roughly distinguish the words forest, zebra, 4 legs, dark night, eyes, and a woman living alone. The only thing he could be sure of was that Qin Guang had completely mastered the Sangmo language. This, Butler stuttered, his face filled with confusion. How could this be? He did not understand. Other than his own research team, he had never heard of any other team going deep into the Amazon jungle to interact with the Sangmo tribe that was about to disappear. Where did Qin Guang learn this from? Also, how did he know so many things that he did not know? Who was this person called Nidai? Was there such a great existence? Why did he deliberately transliterate Nidai's name into Chinese? Was he mocking me? Qin Guang crossed his hands. What? You don't understand? Mr. Butler, you have been studying the Sangmo language for 5 years. You don't understand such a famous poem? Butler clenched his teeth and said, how could I not understand it? When he said this, he admitted one thing in front of everyone. Qin Guang was indeed speaking the Sangmo language. Then why don't you translate it for us? This poem praises the forest, praises animals like zebras, and the dark night gives the poet black eyes. Lastly, it says that he misses the woman living alone far away. This poem is full of romantic feelings. Nidai is indeed a great poet. Qin Guang almost laughed out loud. There was no such thing as a great poet named Nidai. Of course, this poem was also made up by him. It was just that he had translated it into the Sangmo language. Your translation is basically correct. Next, I will say it in Chinese. The one who wrote this poem is your grandpa. The first line is, you are so beautiful in the forest. Your grandpa. Butler was stunned and could not react for a moment. On the other hand, Qin Guang's live broadcast room was filled with cheers. Everyone was saying that he was a scammer. The second line is, you are a zebra with 4 legs. The third line is, the dark night gives me a big black eye. That's right, a big eye. The fourth line is, I use this big eye to peep at widow Wang next door bathing. Butler finally came to his senses. Are you messing with me? Qin Guang snorted. No, this is indeed a poem written by Nidai. He tried hard not to laugh out loud. Anyway, he would not admit it even if he was beaten to death. Perhaps the poet named Nidai was really so wretched? Butler's face turned red as he gnashed his teeth. He wanted to bite Qin Guang to death, but he knew that he couldn't make a move. He had seen Qin Guang's performance in the international wrist strength competition, and Qin Guang's fist was more than enough to send 2 of him to hell. Qin Guang laughed. All right, let's call it a day. In a few days I will also publish a book called The Sangmo Dictionary. In this book I will systematically and completely organize this language. According to my estimation, with my book as the teaching material, Children in their teens will be able to completely master this language in less than 2 years of systematic learning. You're right about one thing. The Sangmo language is indeed a rare small language that is easy to learn and has high practical value. Since Chairman Butler is interested in this language, please remember to buy 2 books to support me. With that, Qin Guang ignored him and turned to leave. In an instant he disappeared from the entrance of the venue. Not only was Qin Guang going to slap him in the face in public, but he was also going to take drastic measures to make his research meaningless. He was going to make him feel so much pain that he began to doubt his life. Chu Zijin jogged all the way and asked behind him, "Is there really a poet named Naide?" Qin Guang rolled his eyes. "You believe my nonsense?" "I'm scolding him," Chu Zijin said, "but the poem you recited just now is completely in line with the grammatical structure and pronunciation analyzed in Butler's report. Do you really understand it?" Qin Guang took his phone from her hand and turned off the live broadcast. Then he grunted. "Of course I never brag. So you really understand all the languages?" "I've already said that I never brag. If you have nothing else to do, let's call it a day. I'll see you tomorrow." The whole morning was wasted. Qin Guang was in a hurry to go back to the hotel to play games and practice. As for Big Beard Deng, who was filming at the film city, what did I say before? He had completely lost his memory. He went back to the hotel, played games and practiced his inner force. All in one go. Halfway through he received a few calls. While he completed a counterattack with one hand, he joked with a few acquaintances to clear the name of the poet, "Damn you." At the same time he also heard from Lu Xiaoyang that Butler didn't come to the afternoon meeting. He heard that he was so angry that he couldn't breathe properly. Qin Guang deeply sympathized with him and sincerely hoped that he could live to see tomorrow. While he was playing games, his performance at the World Language Conference in the morning appeared on the internet in 2 different ways. The first scene was a first-person view shot by Chu Zijin with her mobile phone. The second scene was a 4K HD VR video jointly produced by 5 livestream-related companies. Of course, there was also an ordinary HD version. Both scenes only showed one thing. It was the video of him flipping the table after Butler's academic speech. What happened to being ignorant and incompetent? What happened to bragging? Something didn't seem right. This guy really knew the Sangmo language. What kind of language was that? They had never heard of it before. No one understood where he learned it from. But the fact was that he stunned everyone at the conference. He even said that he was going to publish a book and write teaching materials. It didn't seem like he was joking. Brother Almighty was really a foreign language guru? This horrifying thought slowly rose in everyone's heart. Forget it. We'll find out tomorrow. Time flew and it was the next morning. Qin Guang stood in front of Yu Hong and the others with 2 dark circles under his eyes. He was quite embarrassed. It was all his fault for accidentally saying the taboo language last night. He slept after losing a game. Then he won until the morning. "Mr. Qin, have you been busy all night?" Feng Tianyu was too embarrassed to say that Qin Guang had been playing games. Qin Guang grunted. "Yes. Since I said that I would publish teaching materials for the Sangmo language, of course I can't go back on my words. I'm organizing the information." His lying skills were getting better and better. He could do it with ease. His face didn't change and his heart didn't jump. He even managed to fool himself. Yu Hong said weakly, All right. I hope you can perform better today." Originally, he had used the Sangmo language to boost everyone's morale. But now it had fallen to rock bottom. Our Mr. Qin was really fresh and unconventional. He had stayed up all night before the competition. Finally, the most exaggerated World Language Conference competition in history was about to begin. The prize money was as high as 100 million in cash, and the potential prize money was as high as 240 million renminbi. On the bamboo platform, Qin Guang's personal livestream had not started yet. Since the morning, more than 5 million viewers had flooded in, and the number was still rising. It was almost the same on the overseas online livestream platform Twitch. The Central TV Entertainment Channel's morning gymnastics program, which no one usually paid attention to, had a viewership rating of less than 0.1%. When the competition officially started, the viewership rating would definitely soar. Although there was a time difference between Sky Sports and ABC, their viewership ratings were still very high. It was even comparable to the UEFA Champions League and NFL finals. Relying on his personal influence and unparalleled commercial hype, He had turned the originally useless world language conference competition into a program that was popular all over the world. No matter what, Qin Guang, who was once the #1 internet celebrity in China, and now the #1 internet celebrity in the world, could die without regrets even if he lost the competition. Those advertising sponsors and the 5 livestream companies that had invested in him because they trusted his ability were laughing so hard that their mouths were about to split open. Even the old men in Yanjin who had been sitting calmly on the fishing platform were left speechless by such a terrifying scene. They had asked Tang Xiaokai to invest money in his company in the hope that he would make a big commotion. But now, in the blink of an eye, this guy was about to turn the world upside down. Chapter 865. In the large conference room, the group of old men were discussing the matter of Qin Guang in full swing during the break of the meeting. According to Little Chen, it seems that it will be difficult for us to promote him. That's right. It seems that he doesn't have any awareness in this area. Forget it. Everyone has their own ambitions. He is the same as Little Lin. He doesn't seem to have any interest in politics. When he was appointed as the director of the Guangdong General Administration, it was a bit like forcing a duck onto a perch. He didn't particularly care about it. We were also forced by the situation. The Wen family's patriarch only recognized him and there was no better choice. Now it seems that his ambition is not here. Now that the Special Affairs Bureau has been destroyed, there are more and more martial arts sects that choose to strengthen communication and cooperation with us. In the future, the Guangdong General Administration will be a special agency in the new situation. We can't repeat the mistakes of the past. We can't let the Special Affairs Bureau repeat itself. If used well, it will be a national weapon. If not used well, it will be too big and unreliable. Therefore, the person at the helm of the Guangdong General Administration must be reliable in terms of ideology. According to our observation of Qin Guang so far, there is no problem with his personal character. Of course, the most important thing is that we can't arrange a useless mediocre person just for the sake of stability. We must also be able to coordinate various relationships. In addition, he must have a strong enough personal charm to convince those arrogant inner force martial artists. So, whether he is willing or not, it seems that we can only use him. That's right. That's the logic. Forget it. Let him be. Who would have thought that such a high-profile internet celebrity would be at the helm of the Guangdong General Administration? That's right. Extraordinary people do extraordinary things. Qin Guang is a talented person. Since we instructed the Tang Jie Fund to help him establish the company, his actions have become more and more high-profile. He is preparing for a rainy day. So far he has done a good job. At the beginning, we asked him to do more things to divert the attention of martial artists. Not only did he understand our intentions, but he also took the initiative to divert the attention. He did it so well. What a talent. He's simply a genius. At such a young age he's already so far-sighted. He understands the principle that the most dangerous place is the safest place. In the eyes of these old men, Qin Guang had become a peerless genius. If he knew what the old men were thinking at this time, he would probably scream in his heart that he was wronged. Old gentleman, you think too much. I don't have such profound thinking, I just want to show off. In order to demonstrate the fairness of the competition, especially since Qin Guang was the chairman of the sponsor of the competition, he had to be cautious before the competition. Therefore, he asked Chu Zijin to hold Lu Xiaoyang's mobile phone and broadcast the whole process from the waiting room to the resting area. When the competition officially started, his personal live broadcast room would be synchronized with the main stage's signal. As for now, Bamboo Platform had moved the draw on the main stage to another live broadcast channel. The crazy Xiao Tsong, in order to gain the favor of the network celebrity, simply opened up 2 channels in Qin Guang's personal live broadcast room. No matter which room the audience clicked on, they were all fans of Qin Guang's personal live broadcast room. Therefore, Qin Guang had unknowingly created a new record. He became the first super live broadcast host in China to have 2 private live broadcast rooms. Chu Zijin, who was also a live broadcast host of Bamboo Platform, was also shocked by this treatment. Chu Zijin said with slight jealousy, "Chang Xiaozong treats you too well. Even I, your fan, can't stand it." Qin Guang was playing with his mobile phone and reading a novel. Without raising his head, he said, "Xiao Chu, your faith is not pious enough. I didn't take a penny from Bamboo Platform, nor did I ask for a salary. Brother Xiao Tsong is supporting me in this aspect. It's only right and proper. Yes, yes, yes. Brother Almighty is invincible. Perfect. Quite costly. Zhou Xian teased him according to the bullet screen in the live broadcast room. Then she said, "The draw is about to happen. Aren't you going to prepare in advance? What if you are the first to be drawn?" Qin Guang shrugged nonchalantly. A truly powerful warrior is always summoned and will fight as soon as they are summoned. Don't use the logic of ordinary people to analyze a talent like me. Zhou Xian felt that she really couldn't have a good chat with him. 300 years ago and 300 years later, there won't be anyone stronger than me. Qin Guang put down his phone and looked at Zhou Xian seriously. This sounds familiar. You must have remembered wrongly. Alright, what are the rules of the competition? Oh my god. You actually don't know the rules of the competition? Of course, I'm so busy and don't have time to look. No one told me. That's because you didn't ask. If those subordinates in your company knew you were like this, they would probably die of anger. No, if they were that weak, they would have died of anger long ago. They wouldn't be alive today. The two of them chatted in the live broadcast room as if there was no one else around, but the bullet screen was completely shocked by Qin Guang's big heart. Previously, this guy's confidence was so strong that it almost broke through the sky. Everyone thought that he came prepared. Unexpectedly, in the next second he might be drawn out to compete, but he still didn't know the rules of the competition. This is the end. Come on, stop talking nonsense. The rules are quite complicated. It can't be explained in a few words. Zhou Xian stopped the topic. She felt anxious for Qin Guang. Qin Guang also sat upright and listened attentively. The first group of contestants has drawn their lots. Contestants, please come on stage quickly. The two of them were about to start chatting when the name list of the first group of contestants appeared on the main stage outside. There were a total of 100 people. Qin Guang's name and contestant number were impressively first. There really wasn't any shady deal. Even if there was a shady deal, they wouldn't be stupid enough to put Qin Guang in the first position. This was completely a coincidence. Could also be the curse of fate. God also couldn't bear to see him being too cocky and deliberately gave him a head-on blow. It's over, there's no time. The contestant list and number were synchronized to the contestant lounge. The temporary host cum assistant Zhou Xian looked up and saw Qin Guang's name. Her face turned pale in an instant. The contestants who have drawn their lots, please come to the main stage as soon as possible. The competition is about to begin. The voice of the assistant host came from the loudspeaker. One after another, contestants got up from the large lounge and walked out. Some of these people looked confident, some panicked and some confused. Some put their hands together and prayed secretly. There were also some with their heads held high and their noses pointed to the sky. In an instant, it was really 100 different expressions of life. However, many people turned their heads and looked in the direction of Qin Guang. They wanted to see his expression. Although others were unwilling to admit it, he was the main character today. Alright, forget it. I'll deal with it as it comes. I'm leaving. You can't really be planning to compete like this, right? What else can I do? I've already drawn my lot. I can't deliberately push myself back just because I don't know the rules of the competition, right? Wouldn't that be a joke if word got out? Zhou Xian pointed at her phone. You have a live broadcast here. Actually, we've already set it out. Qin Guang was speechless. Hello, everyone in front of your TV and computers. Welcome to the competition segment of this year's World Language Conference. This competition is sponsored by Buffet Lighter. Buffet Lighter will light up wherever it doesn't know how to. This competition will also begin now. Next, let's welcome our first group of contestants onto the stage. The youthful and beautiful host said in a loud and clear voice. As her voice fell, the first group of 100 contestants, led by Qin Guang, filed out from the backstage. These 100 people followed the signs that had been set up on the stage in advance and found their positions, forming a square formation. Looking at Butler, Park Chongnam and the others below the stage who were sizing him up with playful expressions, Qin Guang was very displeased. These two rascals were seeded contestants, so they didn't need to participate in the first round of preliminaries like him. It was just that he was a little displeased to be standing there, not knowing what the competition was about. Although his face was brimming with a confident smile, his heart was quite perplexed. If he had known this would happen, he would have taken it more seriously. He was a little flustered. Forget it. Since things had already come to this, There was no need to think about those trivial matters. All he had to do was smile. He grinned and gave the camera and everyone in the venue a confident smile. Contestants, please receive the answer boards and pens from the ceremonial lady. The first round of the selection will be a multiple-choice question. In the following round, all contestants will listen to short sentences of the world's major popular languages. Then the answers to the multiple-choice questions will appear on the big screen in front of you. Please write down your answers within 10 seconds, press the answer button, and then raise the answer board in front of your chest. Every contestant will be eliminated if they get one question wrong. This will continue until there are only 10 contestants left from the 100 contestants. As the preliminaries focus on the major popular languages, contestants who specialize in minor languages can choose to participate in the revival round after being eliminated for the first time. They will have a second chance. In this round, we did not choose an electronic answering machine. This is to ensure the absolute fairness, impartiality, and openness of the competition. The competition process will be fully supervised by the Beijing Public Integrity Department. The results of the competition will be jointly recognized by UNESCO, the World Language Association, and the Beijing Public Notary Office. Qin Guang nodded inwardly. I was scared to death. I thought I would really have to ask and chat with each contestant one by one to see how many languages each contestant knew. How much time would that waste? The current rules were pretty good. It was suitable for him to be the first to answer and show off. Could also send some people who wanted to try their luck home first. It also left a chance for the unpopular language specialization contestants to revive, so they would not be the subject of ridicule. Next, please listen to the first question. As soon as the host's voice fell, there was a sudden burst of extremely noisy sound from the speakers in the conference room, accompanied by the low growls of several old men. That's right, it was heavy metal rock music from the German band Chariot. At that time, some of the faces of the 100 contestants turned pale. What the hell? There was jubilation in Qin Guang's live broadcast room. The competition committee is so King sinister. How can they use heavy metal rock as a test question? Will they have to play Jay Chou's songs later? Even the Chinese won't understand it, okay? The audience in front of the TV was also whispering. It was obvious that this seemingly ordinary competition had ill intentions. The first question was so crazy. Chapter 866. Next, contestants, please write down your answers as soon as possible. The countdown begins. As soon as the heavy metal rock music stopped, the host quickly said. At the same time, the countdown sounded immediately, giving no time for the contestants to breathe. Swish. Qin Guang wrote down the answer C on the answer board at lightning speed, and then put it flat on his chest with a calm face. In fact, he felt that his action was a little stupid and not handsome enough, but there was no other way. Everyone was like this, and he really could not think of any creative way to raise his paddle. This competition was indeed full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers, and there were many masters. In addition to Qin Guang, there were about 30 or 40 people who wrote down their answers and raised their paddles immediately. Their speed was comparable to Qin Guang's. It seemed that these people were also proficient in German like Qin Guang. Even if it was hard to distinguish heavy metal rock, they could still distinguish it in an instant. But the other contestants did not have this ability, and the time left for them was too short. One after another, some people followed suit and raised their paddles, while others scratched their ears and cheeks, sweating profusely. In the end, they could only barely guess an answer before the 10-second deadline, and leave their hope to luck. The rules of the competition seemed simple on the surface, but in fact, it was extremely cruel. There was no room for mistakes and the thinking time was extremely short. It just so happened that they chose heavy metal rock, which was hard to distinguish. Those who barely knew German could basically only rely on guessing. If they answered incorrectly, they would be eliminated. If they exceeded the time limit, they would be eliminated. This was the highest stage in the world of linguistics. To be able to get on the stage of the finals, they must at least be proficient in each language they declared. There was no possibility of muddling through. Congratulations to the contestant who chose the answer C. The correct answer is C. With a whoosh, there were only 35 contestants left in the first group. Brother All-Rounder is really something. Just now he seemed to choose C without thinking. Could it be that he missed the question in advance? Nonsense. Although this competition is sponsored by Brother Allrounder, he can't cheat under the eyes of the whole world, right? Wouldn't he lose his reputation if it was exposed? Isn't he rich enough to bribe the organizing committee and the judges? You're really thinking too much. I heard that it was a random selection from the question bank that was prepared temporarily. Even if the question was missed in advance, can you remember such a large question bank? To be honest, why do I feel that memorizing questions is easier than mastering N languages? Shut up, you haters. Which of the things he has done in the past were easy? That's right. This is only the first question. Let's wait and see. Anyway, I don't think he needs to cheat. If he can cheat in a multiple-choice question like the preliminary round, what about the semifinals and finals? At that time, it won't be a multiple-choice question. There will be a question and answer session, and there will even be a live composition. How can he cheat? There were all kinds of heated discussions in Qin Guang's bullet screen, but even though the number of viewers in the live broadcast room had exceeded 8 million, there was no situation of gifts exploding. The viewers in front of their televisions were in a similar situation. Although Qin Guang had been bragging on the internet for a long time, he had never shown his talent in this area to the world before. This was especially true for the field of language, which was different from other fields that required time to accumulate. In the eyes of many people, language was the same as literature or history. It was a field that required time to accumulate. Just like doctors, the older they got, the better they got. He was so young. What right did he have? Of course, there were genius prodigies from time to time, but no prodigy would dabble in such a wide range like him. Although others were geniuses, they still had to learn. You already knew so many things in the past. There was no reason you still had time to learn all kinds of languages. You can't split a day's time into 2 or 3 days, can you? In the program, a new paragraph of clear French was played. It was an excerpt from Flaubert's novel. Just like the first question, Qin Guang still took less than a second to write down the answer on the answer board and raise his sign. Among the remaining 35 people, 30 of them actually raised their placards within 3 seconds. Only when the 5 of them had been working on it for nearly 10 seconds did they raise the sign in their hands shakily. For this question, including Qin Guang, 32 people passed. For the third question, the theme song of Slam Dunk in Japanese, 28 people passed. The fourth question was a recording of an interview with Cristiano Ronaldo in Portuguese. 22 people had passed. For the fifth question, an Italian TV talk show, 17 people passed. For the sixth question, Jay Chou's nunchaku appeared, 13 people passed. At this time in the first round of preliminaries, among the 100 contestants in Qin Guang's group, there were 13 experts who knew at least 6 languages. It should be noted that only contestants who didn't receive an invitation and signed up on their own could participate in the preliminaries. The more powerful contestants in the semifinals and the seeded contestants in the finals were still waiting for them. The quality of the contestants in this competition was evident. But this was not the most shocking thing. It was Qin Guang's performance all along. From the beginning of the competition, no matter what language the question was, he was always the first to raise his sign at lightning speed. He never fell behind or hesitated. Even his most staunch members of the anti-Qin Guang front, the boys from the School of Foreign Languages of Gokyo University, were completely confused. This guy's performance was a bit scary. There was only one explanation. There was a conspiracy. He passed the question. He must have passed the question. His reaction is too fast. It's impossible. This doesn't make sense. I'm an Italian professional simultaneous interpreter. I'd like to say that his reaction is faster than mine. I'm a Portuguese simultaneous interpreter. I don't know what you guys think, but I think there's something fishy going on. I used to be a fan of Brother Allrounder, and I've given him thousands of gifts in his live streaming room. But I really can't figure it out this time. To be honest, I'm very disappointed. Chu Zijin looked at the rhythm of the bullet screen in Qin Guang's live streaming room, and then looked at this guy who was intoxicated in raising his sign at lightning speed. She felt a little anxious. She began to have doubts. But reason told her that it was impossible for Qin Guang to cheat. How could a person who didn't even understand the rules of the competition a moment before the competition go to the question bank in advance? He had been streaming playing games for the past few days. Didn't people sleep? You couldn't possibly play games in the day and memorize questions at night, right? At this time, there were also people talking about this in the bullet screen. Didn't Brother All-Rounder not even understand the rules of the competition? I think he's acting. He's deliberately putting up a smoke screen. That's right. He's the boss of the organizers. How could he not know the rules? Brother All-Rounder's acting is over. In order to become famous, he doesn't even care about his face. I don't care. I'm going to become a fan first. Get lost. I don't need you black fans. That's right. He used to stream so many times. So many people said this and that about him. When he lost, he would broadcast himself eating 3 pounds of sh*t. Now I don't see a single one. There's still so much sh*t in the septic tank. Why don't you people learn from your mistakes? Black fans, come and try adding me on QQ. I'll let you see my top-up records. My LV22 was all from Brother All-Rounder's live streaming room. Then you should understand. So far, Brother All-Rounder has never slapped you in the face. Forget it. You guys are already completely blind. Turn off the bullet screen to preserve your intelligence. The argument in the bullet screen was getting more and more intense. Zhou Xian couldn't help but think to herself, could Qin Guang be acting? But was it necessary? With his current fame, did he need to use such a despicable method to promote himself? After all, this was a world-class competition. Now that the attention was so high, the consequences of a scandal would be so terrible that he wouldn't be able to bear it. He would definitely lose his reputation and become a street rat overnight. Was it worth it? Also, Zhou Xian had always been confident in her ability to read people. She really didn't think that she would be blind to admire a thief who deceived the world. Moreover, although Qin Guang's words sounded ridiculous, his eyes were incomparably clear when he spoke. He was just that confident. It couldn't be faked. But not everyone was so clear about Qin Guang's movements in the past 2 days. Even the third grandson, Gao Ye, and son Xiaoxuan, who were far away in Gokyo University, were all silent. Lin Jingwei said, Brother Guang lost his composure. I really didn't expect him to be like this. Gao Ye said, this guy. Is winning or losing this competition really that important to him? No matter what, he wouldn't use this kind of method. The price is too high and the risk is too high. Bai Fan said, maybe it's not convenient for him to say it out loud. Anyway, I think he must have his reasons. Otherwise, when he comes back, we can just pretend that we didn't pay attention to this matter. Sun Xiaoxuan said, you don't say that. Qin Guang isn't that kind of person. Xiong'er snorted. But this is the truth in front of us. Really, when he asked us to help him sign up for the 8 minor language elective courses, I felt that something was wrong. Brother Guang looks like he's been controlled by some evil force and has turned evil. You guys just won't listen to me. I should have beaten him up a long time ago and he wouldn't have so many problems. I've heard before that people who are possessed by ghosts just need to be beaten up. Lin Jingwei said, if you're good you go. I'm not going. Xiong'er shook his head. Forget it. I can't beat him. I'm afraid of dying. Tang Ying, who was in the city hospital's office, slammed the table. This guy is crazy. Is it worth it? You must maintain a decent image. If your image is damaged, won't the company be finished? Tang Ying hurriedly called Wu Tong. It seemed that there was no way to stop the preliminaries, but it was still not too late for Wu Tong to rush over to stop him. They couldn't let him use the same trick again in the semi-finals. When the competition became more complicated, they would definitely be exposed. But what made Tang Ying furious was that Wu Tong had actually returned to the 5 capital. That girl didn't even inform me. Also, she actually said something ridiculous like don't worry about Qin Guang. This guy has a trump card. My trump card is your face. This trump card of his was clearly cheating. The audience and judges at the scene also looked at each other, speechless. This is simply a scandal in the academic world. If he wins like this, it's simply a disgrace. It's a disgrace to the academic world. Who was the one who missed the question? The president of the Esperanto Association, an old scholar from Hungary, who had just arrived today, slammed the table and said, no wonder he dared to spout nonsense on the internet. He must have planned it beforehand. Don't you think so, Mr. Huang? As a seated player, Park Chongnam, who didn't need to participate in the preliminaries, turned his head and said to Huang Changming, who wasn't far away. Huang Changming's face turned red. Nonsense. The Chinese make up less than 10% of the judges. The entire question bank is also a temporary arrangement, and it's completely confidential. To avoid taboo, The Chinese didn't even participate in setting the questions. What right do you have to defame us? But Huang Changming's argument was useless. Not to mention these foreigners, even the Chinese language experts had changed sides. Chapter 867. Old Huang, we really don't need to do that. Qin Guang is just a star. He can be shameless. After the matter is over, he can still be a star and shoot his movies. He will have nothing to do with us. But we scholars can't afford to lose our face. From now on, how can our Wuxia language community gain a foothold in the world? Shi Zongda also beat his chest and stamped his feet to persuade him. Wang Jiaqing from the Capital Foreign Language University was not so polite. This Qin Guang is really ridiculous. He has lost his face abroad. But I don't think he is looking for our Wuxia people. If everyone can think of it, he can also think of it. Maybe someone received his US dollars or euros. Professor Liu from Yenjing Foreign Language University also said darkly, how many years has it taken for our Wuxia language community to keep up with the world's advanced level and get the recognition of the global academic community? That's why this year's World Language Conference was held in Wuxia. This time Qin Guang is going to lose our face. Years of accumulation have been destroyed in one day. Gao Zhida also said, Old Huang, this time you are a little inconsiderate. We know that you want to do a good job in the World Language Conference. We understand your feelings and efforts. We also supported this matter at the beginning. Qin Guang is indeed rich. This conference is indeed on a high level. Generally speaking, it is also the largest world language conference in the past 20 years. If it is done well, it will win face for our Wuxia and also improve the academic status of Wuxia. But once the scandal breaks out, it will not be as simple as losing all our previous efforts. We will suffer a loss. Professor Liu said bitterly, we have let a wolf into the house. A businessman like Qin Guang, an internet celebrity, doesn't know what learning is. He has tied the entire Wuxia language community to his pirate ship. He is using us. Huang Changming was really annoyed by these people's words. He couldn't explain it even if he had 100 mouthfuls of words. I have such a great injustice in my heart. Who can I talk to? Who would have thought that it would be like this? But how did he do it? This didn't make sense. There were people watching him the whole time. It was said that he had been streaming and playing games online recently. The few middle-level executives of Tianguang Agency were only responsible for organizing meetings. They had never been in private contact with anyone. It was completely impossible. There were no signs of that, okay? Huang Changming suffered in silence, unable to voice his bitterness. I had clearly made all the preparations, but why did I still end up in this limelight? Previously, he was also worried that such a situation would occur, so he simply made the entire process of setting the question and letting others supervise it. This was because he did not want others to gossip about him. Before the competition, he had been doing quite well. Although Qin Guang was very arrogant, others were only guessing in their hearts and were not certain. Basically, no one on the internet or within the academic community had guessed in that direction. However, Qin Guang's performance in the preliminaries was too monstrous. Other than the fact that he already had an answer in his heart, there was no other explanation. Even a top-notch linguist would need at least a second to react to a language that wasn't his mother tongue. But look at him, not to mention a second, he probably didn't even have a second. The moment the answer to the basic multiple-choice question appeared on the answer board, he had already raised his paddle. But where did this kid get his hands on it? Was it completely unnoticed? Which part of the process went wrong? Who had the guts to do that? How did he dare to cooperate with Qin Guang in a competition that was watched by countless eyes all over the world? This time he was really done for. His illustrious reputation was about to be destroyed in his old age. Below the competition stage, the three middle-level executives of Tianguang Agency looked at each other speechlessly and could only smile bitterly. Lu Xiaoyang's hand that was holding Feng Tianyu's phone was trembling. At the same time, the headquarters of Tianguang Agency was reporting to the Public Relations Department and the Publicity Department about the current situation. Based on the information that the Publicity Department had reported, it was shocking and appalling. This time I'm done for. I've spent 9 bulls worth of effort. The total investment of the company is as high as 140 million, and I've used countless resources to run the world's language conference with great difficulty. In the end, it turned out to be a big stage for Yu Xiaochen to attract criticism. The public opinion on the internet had completely exploded, okay? Those haters and haters who had been chasing after Qin Guang were simply pouring out their firepower in a frenzy. At this moment, the Chinese internet was basically a carnival of hating Qin Guang. But all of this was based on Qin Guang's strong performance on the scene. Others didn't need evidence and they couldn't produce any evidence themselves. Even if the company launched an emergency publicity plan, it wouldn't be able to help Mr. Qin clear his name. What the hell is wrong with you, Mr. Qin? Even if you really have some tricks up your sleeves and that's why you were so arrogant to bet with Park Changnam, you should at least control the rhythm and not act so unreasonable. Look, he's doing it again. Lu Xiaoyang covered his face in pain. Mr. Qin is such a smart person, why can't he understand this logic at this critical juncture? There are at least 60 to 70 million pairs of eyes all over the world watching. You're cheating so brazenly, how can we endure it? This is already the 9th question and it's even Hindustani. Can you at least hold back a little? Don't be like this. Qin Guang looked at the countless doubtful eyes in the audience, and then looked at Lu Xiaoyang who was desperately trying to signal him with his eyes. At this moment he could roughly imagine what kind of limelight would be on the internet. But he didn't intend to hold back. If I'm going to play, I'm going to play big. Finally, during the 9th question, the 11th person knelt on the Hindustani question. Qin Guang and the other 9 people held hands as they advanced to the semi-finals. It was only the first round of the preliminary round, and there were already 10 people who mastered 9 foreign languages. Probably all the language geniuses were here for his 100 million renminbi grand prize. Of course, the others were showing off their talent, but Qin Guang was completely a monster that shouldn't exist in this world. Under the extremely complicated gazes of the others, Qin Guang greeted the people below the stage. He didn't say anything else and turned around to go backstage. Yu Hong and the other 2 hurriedly followed him. Qin. Mr. Qin. Yu Hong wanted to say something but stopped. He wanted to get Qin Guang to go to a secluded place with them to talk and think of a way to salvage the situation. However, Qin Guang waved his hand casually. You don't have to say anything. The situation is under my control now. Don't panic. The sky won't fall. Fang Tianyu said anxiously, Mr. Qin. But the sky has already fallen. The people on the internet are making a ruckus. Lu Xiaoyang also said, Mr. Qin, we really don't have a choice this time. Why don't we withdraw from the competition after the preliminaries? Really, when the time comes we can just make up an excuse like you're not feeling well or something. After some time, when the heat of this matter dies down, we can slowly think of a way to salvage the situation. It's fine if we lose the 50 million renminbi prize money. Where there's life, there's hope. Yu Hong was more steady. That's right. As for the bet between you, Butler, and Park Changnam, we will secretly think of a way. The finals will have a segment where the judges give marks. This kind of thing is still quite subjective, so there's some room for maneuver. As long as the 2 of them don't win, even if their prize money is tripled, it's not completely unbearable. Qin Guang's eyes widened. What? Old you actually want to play dirty? This is simply shameful. No, I definitely won't agree to it. Yu Hong and the other 2 stared with their eyes wide open and gasped. What the heck? I've seen shameless people, but I've never seen someone as shameless as you, Mr. Qin. How shameless must you be to be able to reveal the truth while saying that it's shameful for others to play dirty? Qin Guang waved his hand impatiently and earnestly lectured his 3 right-hand men. All right. The 3 of you don't have to say anything else. I've already made up my mind and there's no room for discussion. It's not the first day you've known me. Why don't you learn from your mistakes? Even his own company's people thought this way. It wasn't hard for him to guess what the people outside were thinking. But he root. None. What? Go. The 3 of you leave. I'll say this first. Don't you dare touch the judges. As long as I'm around, Butler and Park Changnam will never win. They won't be able to win in this lifetime and they won't be able to do so in their next lives either. In life we must be upright and resolute. We must resolutely put an end to cheating and manipulating people behind the scenes. We must absolutely not leave any room for others to talk about us. Otherwise I'll hold you accountable. Qin Guang's face hardened. This time he really brought out the dignity of a boss. But it was useless. In the eyes of Lu Xiaoyang and the other 2, the thickness of their Mr. Chen's skin had probably broken through the sky. If he stuck his face on a tank, it could totally be used as an anti-missile armor. So I forget it. Seeing that he had really made up his mind, The few of them looked at each other and sighed in their hearts. It was useless to say anything. This guy was too stubborn and unreasonable. Let's go. We still have to be on our last shift. When he muddles his way through to the finals, especially during the debate, there'll be no turning back. Our company is going to be finished. After the three of them left, Zhou Xian, who was sitting beside Chen Guang, also wanted to say something. But she looked at the live broadcast phone in her hand and didn't know what to say. You want to say that I must have cheated, right? Chen Guang smiled. Zhou Xian pouted her lips and didn't say anything. Instead, she glanced at the phone. Chen Guang waved his hand. It doesn't matter. There's nothing to hide. I'll say it again. I'll repeat it to all of you. I promise this will be the last time I emphasize this matter. I've mastered all the languages in this world. I'm as familiar with them as my mother tongue. Stop fooling around. Chen Guang's face was serious as he stared at the phone. Really, all the languages, 4,978, including the Sangmo language from yesterday's academic conference. He was not only saying this to Zhou Xian, but also to everyone in his live broadcast room. Lunatic. You're a complete lunatic. You've completely immersed yourself in your own illusion. You're immersed in the world you've created and can't extricate yourself. Chapter 868. After a whole day, the preliminaries were finally over. There were 27 groups of contestants in the preliminaries, and 10 people were selected from each group, for a total of 270 people. Including the 48 contestants who successfully passed the revival round and advanced to the second round of the semifinals, there were a total of 318 people who passed the preliminaries. The statistics showed that there were a total of 323 contestants who had mastered more than 10 languages and were on the invitation list who had directly advanced to the semifinals. That meant that there would be 641 people participating in the semifinals tomorrow. As for the registered awakened ones from the Broca area like Park Chong-nam, Butler Gay and Zhou Xian, as well as well-known scholars like Will Bartz from Oxford, there were a total of 45 people who were waiting in the final round of the finals for the contestants who had emerged from the semi-finals. On the first day of the competition, other than Qin Guang in the first group who had caused trouble, the other 26 groups were uneventful. It could be considered a successful conclusion. However, as the organizers of the competition, the middle-level leaders of the Wuxia Language Association and Tianguang Agency did not dare to look at the limelight online. Really, there was no need to look. It was definitely all scolding. This time, even Qin Guang's fans could not wash it away. In fact, it was not as simple as not being able to wash it away. There were also many fans who had turned against him. Although there had always been haters lurking in Qin Guang's livestream room, it was just as one of the viewers had said. He had been continuously sending gifts to Qin Guang's livestream room. Although he had never won first place that day, he was undoubtedly a die-hard fan of Qin Guang. However, this time he had also turned against him. And because he had been caught by the people in the bullet screen, he was very determined to turn against him. The reason was that too many people felt that Qin Guang had cheated too crazily and had no bottom line. After a busy day, little Tsong lay back and leaned against the chair. Although he had been sitting in the chair all day and had not moved much, he really felt weak all over. However, he could not rest yet. On the computer screen in front of him was a report of the day's data. Looking at the report, his eyebrows were tightly knitted. The situation was not as good as he had imagined. The two channels in Qin Guang's live broadcast room reached its peak when the first group he was in went on stage to compete. There were about 9 million viewers. However, ever since his match ended, the number of people online began to plummet. By the time of the match in the afternoon, the number of people online had even fallen below 2 million. It was even lower than when he usually played games and live-streamed. This wasn't good news. Could it be that Huaxia's #1 online celebrity, Qin Guang, was going to fall because of this incident? Since they hitched a ride on Qin Guang's car, and with the recent increasingly fierce and increasingly popular live broadcast, the market value of Bamboo live broadcast has increased nearly tenfold. How could little Tsong bear to get off the bus? However, if Qin Guang's image crumbled, his Bamboo would also suffer. Xiao Tsong picked up his phone again and again, wanting to call Qin Guang. But in the end, he didn't make the call. His relationship with Qin Guang wasn't that close, and he understood that good advice was unpleasant to the ear. There were other people around Qin Guang. What needed to be said must have already been said to him. With his relationship with Qin Guang, It was really not suitable for him to say bad advice. Mr. Qin, Mr. Qin. A heart-wrenching roar came from Qin Guang's phone, and it was Huang Changming's voice on the other end. Qin Guang moved the phone a little further away. President Huang, what's the matter? Huang Changming opened his mouth and wanted to say it, but because it was a phone he was worried that the content of their conversation would be leaked, so he had to cover it up. I've been looking for you everywhere since the match ended. Where are you? Qin Guang ate 2 mouthfuls of rice. Going back to the hotel for dinner. Are you free at night? I have something to talk to you about. No time, busy. Qin Guang didn't need to think to know what Huang Changming had to do. Hey, Phil. Qin Guang ignored him. Huang Changming said again, Mr. Qin, what do you think about today's matter? Otherwise tomorrow you will. I heard you have a bad cold? Qin Guang said, President Huang, I'm not sick. I'm fine. No. You're sick. You're the one who's sick. Qin Guang hung up the phone. Didn't this guy want him to pretend to be sick and forfeit the match tomorrow? What's wrong with you? Old Huang, what did he say again? Shirt Songda moved his head over and carefully sized up Huang Changming's ashen face. Huang Changming sighed. He knew what I wanted to say, so he hung up. Shirt Songda slammed the table and said angrily, Ridiculous. This guy doesn't even care about his face. No, he must be disqualified from the competition tomorrow. How can anyone be as shameless as him? Didn't you hear what he said in his live broadcast after the match? He said he knows 4,978 languages. And they are all the same as his mother tongue. This is the most shameless person in China in 5,000 years. Disqualified? Stop joking, we don't have any evidence. Do we still need evidence? Don't we? Old man, sure, have you gone stupid from studying so much? I wanted him to pretend to be sick and forfeit the match. That's the only way. No matter what people say, it's not true. We can still deal with it. But to disqualify him, isn't that a confession? But he doesn't agree. Sai, what can we do? Don't ask me. I don't know either. Qin Guang did not know how many calls he had hung up on that night. There were at least 10 people who wanted to persuade him. In the end, he simply turned off his phone. No one could persuade him. Even the Heavenly King can't persuade me. When I'm angry, everyone's face will be slapped. I'll even hit myself. The next day, looking at the 16 million viewers in the live broadcast, Xiaozong blinked his eyes. He thought he was blind. Brother Hu, is there something wrong with the data? What's going on? 16 million viewers? Chang Xiaozong waved his hand and called Brother Hu the person in charge of bamboo technology. Brother Hu ran over, sweating profusely. Director Chang, there's nothing wrong with the data. It's just that there are so many people. The CDN server can't take it anymore. The traffic is too much. Chang Xiaozong took a deep breath. Although this was great news, he did not understand what was going on. Wasn't the number of viewers dropping yesterday afternoon? Why was it that the semi-finals had only just begun, and he had already ascended on the spot? It was not only Bamboo Platform. Overseas, Twikey, CCTV Entertainment Channel, Sky Sports, and America's ABC Television were also experiencing similar situations. The number of users skyrocketed, or the viewership skyrocketed. Why was this happening? The heads of the 5 major media companies were all confused. Didn't Qin Guang show signs of depression yesterday? After a night, not only did the limelight not change, but there were more and more people scolding Qin Guang. But the result was that the viewership for today's show had skyrocketed. But these companies were smart people. Their confusion did not last long. Through the feedback from the first line of information, they quickly found the reason. Being scolded was also a form of popularity. Being criticized was also a form of attention. It was precisely because of Qin Guang's deranged act of cheating in the preliminary round that not only did he receive a wave of criticism in the country, but he was also criticized by the foreign countries as well. Many famous figures, fashion celebrities, sports stars, and scientists had raised their doubts about Qin Guang. It was so much so that there were even people who tried to direct the fire back to the incident where he forced the landing of DL Flight 199333, claiming that he had nothing to do with that incident and that he was a fake hero. He wasn't the real hero. A person who had never had a flight record before, how could he successfully make a forced landing under such extreme circumstances? There must be something fishy going on. Just like this time's World Language Conference competition. He is a liar. He is a repeat offender. But this argument was quickly clarified by the spokespersons of the major airlines. What a joke. Have you seen such a powerful liar? Until now we have not digested the hidden meaning in his lectures. The more we study, the more we feel that he is unfathomable. Such a person is a liar, then we want the whole world to be a liar. But the scope of these airlines' clarification was limited to the forced landing of the plane. They did not get involved in the right and wrong of the language world. As outsiders, they did not understand and had no right to speak. In short, the World Language Conference enjoyed high global attention because of Qin Guang's previous hype. In the eyes of the world, he exposed the shady business and cheated in public in front of tens of millions of people yesterday. He had no bottom line and was quite unscrupulous. He used his wealth to tarnish academia, humiliate scholars, and humiliate the competition. His crazy behavior instantly brought this matter to an unprecedented height. Even some European and American countries directly put this matter into the national news, as the main focus of the broadcast. The content of these news was nothing more than the following. The Chinese tycoon organized the academic conference in the name of supporting academia. In fact, he is fraudulent. He made the global language world suffer for his reputation. The media tycoon Modo said that he is richer than the Chinese people. In the future, the World Language Conference will never be held in China. If necessary, he and his media group are willing to become long-term sponsors of the World Language Conference to maintain academic purity and resist shameless hype. All these signs made countless people who did not pay attention to this matter know about the scandal that was playing out. Regarding the next day's competition, countless people had all kinds of speculations in their hearts. They wanted to see if the Chinese tycoon named Qin Guang had the courage to continue on the competition stage when the whole world saw through his tricks. Would he continue to play his clown role shamelessly until the last moment on the competition stage, or would he pretend to be sick and withdraw from the competition? This question turned over and over in the minds of countless people. They could not forget it. Even foreign friends with jet lag were waiting in front of the TV and computer. So, whether it was Bamboo Live or other platforms, the number of viewers rushed to the sky as soon as the competition began. So what would Qin Guang do? Chapter 869. Oh my god, the viewers in the livestream room. Zhou Xian was holding the new livestream phone that Lu Xiaoyang had just bought today. She looked at the data panel in the livestream room in astonishment. Qin Guang, who was resting with his eyes closed, looked up slightly. What's wrong? 16 million viewers are online at the same time. Oh, not bad. Xiao Chong's ladder contract has been triggered. 30 million. Qin Guang nodded lightly. Do you still care about this at a time like this? What else can I do? There's nothing for me to be serious about today. It's almost time for the semi-finals to draw lots. Speaking of which, I'm really envious of you. You actually made it to the finals straight away. It's so unfair. I should be like you guys. I said it's time for the semi-finals to draw lots. How powerful are the awakened from the Broca area? Why don't I see anything special about you? Apart from being pretty, you have 2 eyes, a nose and a mouth. At this moment, Zhou Xian felt that Qin Guang was cutting the conversation short again. She said east, he said west. She said cow, he said horse. What's the structure of this guy's brain? What the hell is he thinking at this moment? Forget it, I'm not going to talk anymore. I'll probably die of depression if I keep talking. The 641 semi-finalists today would be divided into 16 groups. Each group had about 40 contestants. Only 3 would be selected to enter the finals. A total of 48 contestants would enter tomorrow's finals. The elimination rate was quite high. It was very cruel. It was still the same round of drawing lots. However, Qin Guang's name did not appear in the first round of drawing lots. Still not in the second round. He probably won't come today, right? He's sitting in the contestants' lounge in his own livestream room. He's just putting on a show. He'll probably either have a stomachache or a headache or have to run away for a few days every month. That's right. If it were me, I would know when to stop. I heard that his Tianguang agency has received almost 200 million in sponsorship and copyright fees. Didn't he earn back the money? If he had not made the bet with Mr. Butler, he would have made a profit. Don't joke around. Don't think that just because Butler and Park Chongnam are seeded contestants, they can easily become champions. From what I can see, among the 600 or so contestants that came out of the qualifiers, there are at least a dozen or so awakened ones from the Broca region that have never appeared before. There are also a few old pedants. Although they are not awakened ones, they were once quite famous language geniuses. That's true. None of the 45 seated players are easy to get along with. Although Butler and Park Chongnam are the permanent directors of the world's language club and have high statuses, they aren't that focused on learning, right? Similar conversations could be heard in the audience below the competition venue. Even the audience in front of their televisions and computers thought that Qin Guang probably wouldn't play this time. Perhaps the moment his name was drawn would be the moment he would withdraw from the competition. Even those who were familiar with Qin Guang probably thought the same. However, Qin Guang, who was the focus of everyone's attention, didn't feel this way at all. Instead, he lowered his head and played with his phone. Many people who were watching the live broadcast on TV, in order to see Qin Guang's current performance, simply downloaded Bamboo or Twitch mobile apps. They watched the TV while watching Qin Guang on their phones. As for those who were wearing VR monitors, it was much more comfortable. VR had multiple cameras and angles. With one click, they could freely switch between the various cameras in the competition venue and the cameras in the contestants' lounge. They could also immerse themselves in the scene. Flap. Qin Guang slapped a camera that was almost in his face. What are you doing? Are you going to give me a gastroscope? He glared at the camera in front of him. F***ck, if I didn't know you were from a VR film crew, I would have slapped your face. The cameraman quickly shook his head and stepped back. I'm sorry, Mr. Qin. I was too engrossed in the shot. I thought that the audience might also want to experience what it feels like to look at you up close. Qin Guang rolled his eyes and ignored him. He lowered his head and continued to look at his phone. However, just now, a sharp-eyed audience member caught a glimpse of his phone screen. This guy was actually reading a novel. At this time, we thought that you would definitely do some research before the competition, or at least read some professional knowledge or something. In the end, you were just reading a web novel. You should at least read a foreign language version. At this time, the results of the third group of contestants' draw suddenly appeared on the competition stage and on the screen in the contestants' lounge. Qin Guang's name was impressively on the list. It was ranked 27th. The entire world's audience held their breath at once. In the venue, the other contestants from all over the world, the experts and scholars from the World Language Association and the Wuxia Language Association, and the audience who bought tickets to watch the competition also widened their eyes. Huang Changming, Lu Xiaoyang, and the others all had different thoughts. They put their palms together and prayed. Sir, I'm begging you, please withdraw from the competition. It's enough. It's really enough. Your name is on it. It's your turn. Chu Zijin patted Qin Guang's shoulder. This guy was engrossed in reading the novel. Qin Guang raised his head and glanced at it. Oh, what does that mean? Are you going to withdraw from the competition or not? Then I'll go. See you later. Qin Guang said calmly and then stood up as if nothing had happened. He was as calm as an office worker greeting his wife before leaving the house every morning. What was going on? He was as calm as drinking soup. Was he going to continue participating in the competition? The shady business was going to continue? When he really stood on the stage with the other 39 contestants, everyone finally recognized this rather ruthless reality. That's right, this guy was so shameless. He really chose to continue participating in the competition. Even if he was condemned by thousands of people, even if the whole world suspected him, it was useless. No one could stop him. Mr. Qin, haven't you caused enough trouble? A foreigner who looked like an old pedant standing next to Qin Guang said in a low voice. Qin Guang ignored him. He started to provoke again. It is said that modesty is a virtue for the Chinese. Mr. Qin, you have changed my view of the Chinese. Qin Guang finally turned his head slightly and looked at him. Old man, I respect you as an old man and won't argue with you. But can you shut up? You, what about me? If you talk nonsense again, I will tell the referee that you are interfering with my competition. Qin Guang turned his head and stood in the crowd with his hands clasped behind his back. Contestants, please take a step back. An answer board will rise from the bottom of the red glass panel in front of you. Please put on your headphones. On the answer board in front of you, there will be reading comprehension questions and listening questions randomly selected according to the language you declared. You will have 2 minutes to answer each question, so please hurry up. In this round of the semi-finals, you will be eliminated immediately. If you exceed the time limit, you will be eliminated immediately. There is no chance of revival. The big screen and the live broadcast signal will randomly select the contestants' answers. The language competition was different from other competitive events. It was difficult to measure the level of a contestant with a simple score. It couldn't even be measured by the number of languages a person had mastered. For example, some people claimed to have mastered 30 to 40 languages, but in fact they could only use simple phrases in most of the languages. They couldn't even communicate with others. Then their level was not as good as those who had mastered more than 10 languages and could communicate with others normally in their daily lives. Another example would be another type of person. Although they were linguists, they spent most of their time and energy on a few or 10 languages, which were not large in number. Every language had been passed down and evolved for thousands of years. They represented the culture and wisdom of a nation. Just like the broad and profound Chinese language, every language in the world had its own birth, evolution, and process of evolution. It might not be as complicated and changeable as the Chinese language, and it was not as complicated as the Chinese language, but it was also very deep in the academic field. Mastery was not as good as proficiency. Proficiency was not as good as intensive cultivation, and intensive cultivation was not as good as 10 years of sharpening a sword. It was difficult to quantify the level of the contestants. But a competition was a competition, and people would always come up with a solution. The rules of the semi-finals, where one wrong answer would result in elimination, were indeed too cruel. There was also a lot of uncertainty. Because everyone's answers were different, there would be differences in the difficulty. Common types of languages could be randomly selected from the question bank. For some of the more niche languages, the World Language Association would find people from all over the world to help set the questions a few days in advance. The difficulty of such questions could not be controlled at all. But this was also an expedient measure. It might be too heartless for some of the unfortunate people who were eliminated, but this was a competition. There must be rules, and tears were not believed. Perhaps there would be people with good skills who failed in the semi-finals. Then they could only blame it on fate. In the next round of the finals, there would be a more comprehensive scoring mechanism. It could effectively avoid all kinds of accidents and assess the complete and true level of the contestants. Contestants, please get ready. Answer the questions. We will begin immediately. With a wave of the female host's hand, the semi-finals officially began. The next moment, the answer panel of one of the contestants appeared on the television, computer, and the big screen of the competition venue. The square in the upper right corner of the screen was the contestant's face captured by the camera on the answer panel. The question stem was in the middle of the screen, and the number of languages declared by the contestants were in the lower left corner. The questions in front of each contestant were selected by the computer program in advance according to the language declared by the contestant, and then randomly selected from the question bank. The kind of players who had forced themselves to give false information when they first signed up were now begging the heavens to not pick a language that they didn't know very well. There had been two groups of contestants before. Among the contestants in the first two groups, most of the numbers in the lower left corner were between 10 to 15. A few people could reach 15 to 25, and a very few people exaggerated by declaring more than 30 languages. But at this time, almost everyone stared at the screen with their mouths wide open, thinking that their eyes were playing tricks on them. Host, didn't you say that the contestants would be randomly selected? Random my ass. First it was Brother All-Rounder. You had to choose one correct answer out of 40 people, and all of your answers were Brother All-Rounder. This was the most hypocritical pseudo-random we had ever seen. In the picture it was Qin Guang's handsome face, with his long hair fluttering in the wind. On the lower right corner was his name. This was all very normal, but what was up with the number on the lower left corner? Previously we saw other contestants with 2 digits on the lower left corner. Suddenly a 4-digit number popped out. This was not normal. The number displayed on the lower left corner of Qin Guang's answer panel was 4,978. Why didn't you just write 3,154 or 4,396? Why didn't you go to heaven? There must be a problem with the system, right? Chapter 870. The audience in front of the computer, the bullet screen of Qin Guang's live stream, and even the competition venue were in an uproar. That did not make sense at all. Not to mention these people, even the host was stunned for a moment. However, she received a prompt from the director on her earpiece. The director urged, "Hurry up and say something. There's no problem with Qin Guang's data. This is really the information he declared himself. The female host adjusted her state of mind and said, "The one who appears on the screen now is Chen Guang. He's different from the other contestants. He has declared a total of 4,978 languages. You're not wrong and I'm not wrong. There's no problem with the procedure. This is indeed the declaration information Chen Guang filled out himself. What appears in front of him now is Irish. This is an extremely minority language. Because it's not the official language of Ireland, only 40,000 people can speak it. It's one of the endangered languages. The person who set the question is an Irish professor from Oxford. Let's invite the experts to comment on the difficulty of this question. Take the Wuxia people as an example. If the difficulty of English is 1 star and the difficulty of German is 2 stars, then the difficulty of this Irish language should be 5 stars. That's right. Although it belongs to the Latin family, there are too few people in the world who have mastered Irish. The systematic learning method has not been sorted out. Even the Irish people hardly use this language anymore, so it's extremely difficult to learn. As they chatted, another minute passed. The contestants could finally tap on the screen and choose to directly pull up the answer to the reading comprehension question. Then Chen Guang pressed the button at lightning speed. As soon as the answer appeared, he chose B. 2 huge words appeared on the answer board. Correct. The host and the expert commentator froze at once. We're talking about how difficult the question is. Why don't you pretend to think about it a little? After a brief awkward silence, the female host, who had made rapid progress in the past 2 days, immediately changed the topic. She switched the screen to the other contestants and continued to ask the experts and judges on the field for advice. Compared to the other contestants, Chen Guang has applied for an incredible 4,978 languages. So, may I ask all of you in our question bank, are there really close to 5,000 languages? As one of the organizers of the competition, Huang Changming was also a well-known scholar in the country. He rubbed his eyebrows in pain and said, "To be honest, even though Chen Guang said he knows all languages, this is the first time I've seen the registration information of the contestants. I'm really shocked. I have to admit that we were not meticulous enough in our work. We collected questions from more than 800 different languages, and we took care of almost all the languages spoken by more than 100,000 people. Of course, we didn't let go of representative languages like Irish, which played an important role in history, but we really couldn't take care of every single language. In the previous closed-door statistics, we also specifically addressed the needs of some special small language players. We used the method of intersecting players to come up with questions, or urgently contacted scholars from all over the world. We almost achieved 99.9% accurate coverage. However, when Chen Guang filled in the registration information, he didn't check the pre-selection language we provided. He directly checked the others and then added that 4,978 languages. We really can't do anything about it. Huang Changming was really a bit broken. Finally, another minute passed. 5 of the 40 contestants answered incorrectly and were immediately eliminated. Soon they entered the second question. The so-called random selection once again locked onto the camera lens of Chen Guang. This time what appeared in front of Chen Guang was the Frisian language, which was only spread in the East Frisian region of Germany, and was mastered by less than 1,000 elderly people. This was not a reading comprehension question, but a listening question. A barrage of Frisian words rang in everyone's ears even though they didn't understand what they were saying. But this time there was no difference from the first question. The female host was talking with other experts about how difficult this question was. As a result, 1 minute had just passed and the listening question had just ended, and Chen Guang instantly wrote the answer on the answer board with a stylus. A completely synchronized image appeared in the live broadcast signal. He actually used a language that no one could understand at all. The female host really couldn't control her emotions and said something very unprofessional. "He can't be scribbling nonsense, right?" "No. My God. He's not scribbling nonsense." A strong middle-aged man with blonde hair and blue eyes suddenly stood up from the guest seat, very emotional. "Mr. Marquez from Germany, do you have any questions?" The female host asked in English. The man named Marquez slightly sorted out his emotions, and then said in slightly salt and pepper Chinese, "My family used to be from Frisian, but our family has moved to Bavaria for many years, and the Frisian language has gradually been forgotten. In my family, the last person who could read and write Frisian was my uncle. He passed away the year before last. This recording was provided by me. 10 years ago, during a family gathering, my uncle told us a proverb from our hometown in Frisian. Then he translated it sentence by sentence and told it to us. My uncle also wrote the story down. He hoped that we wouldn't forget Frisian. But we disappointed him, and I'm deeply sorry and ashamed. But the answer that Chen Guang wrote is exactly the same as the answer that my uncle wrote in the end. Marquez took out his mobile phone, and the high-definition live broadcast lens kept zooming in. The photo taken by his mobile phone appeared on the screen, and it was exactly the same as the words that Chen Guang had written on the answer board that looked like scribbles to others. I really didn't expect that there would be someone in this world who could write in Frisian. I'm really a little excited that I can't even speak coherently. Marquez continued to say excitedly, Mr. Chen, I'm willing to be your student. There was an uproar in the huge venue. Chen Guang, who had already taken off his headset, waved his hand indifferently. The other contestants are still answering the questions. Although they are wearing headsets, now is not the time to talk about this. You can go back and sit down first. Yes, Mr. Chen. Marquez sat back down with slight reluctance. The person next to him teased him. Marquez, what are you thinking? How can there be such an incredible person like him in this world? Don't you think that the whole thing is being manipulated? He has written in almost 5,000 languages. There are also more than 800 languages in the question bank. Why did your Frisian coincidentally appear in his question bank? How could he answer it so easily? That's right, there must be something wrong here. What he did today is even more outrageous than yesterday. This computer system must be being manipulated. Marquez was stunned at first. That's impossible, right? Just wait and see. If you don't believe me after today's competition, why don't you ask him to write something else in Frisian to try? He'll probably draw you a simple Snoopy. That's right, this was what many people were thinking. This seemingly random computer question in many people's minds was even easier to manipulate than yesterday's competition mode. Even Huang Changming, the organizer of the competition, and the middle management of Tianguang brokerage knew that none of them had tampered with the system. However, what Qin Guang did today was even more suspicious than yesterday. For the third question, Qin Guang still finished it in 1 minute. At this time, there were only 30 contestants left. Worldwide, close to 80 million online viewers were all stunned. No one would have thought that he would have no bottom line to this extent. When everyone had already discovered his true nature as a liar and thought that he would withdraw from the competition, not only did he not withdraw, he even went even further. Not only did he answer the questions, he even had the handwriting function. Can't you have a little more shame? Qin Guang said, Of course I have shame, I didn't cheat and there's nothing wrong with this computer system. The one that's wrong is your brain. But no one believed him. There were less than 1,000 old men in the world who could speak a language, and not only could he understand it, but he could also write words that would soon be lost? Are you kidding me? When the fourth question was also solved by Qin Guang at the speed of light, Huang Changming's face turned completely pale. President Huang, you have to give all of us a reasonable explanation. Why did such a situation happen? The people from the World Language Club, Park Chong-nam, Butler, and the others couldn't hold back anymore. Even though the competition was still ongoing, they started making things difficult for Huang Changming in front of everyone. Huang Changming trembled for a long time. His mind was blank, so he decided to just throw in the towel and say, Don't ask me everything. The process of setting the questions, the writing of the computer program, and the backstage technicians in charge of operating the computer were all provided by you. The entire process was open to the public and everyone was supervising each other. Wouldn't you see? Now you're asking me what's going on? I'm the one who wants to ask you. Butler Gay said angrily, Excuses. This is a farce. That's right. Chase Qin Guang down now. The commotion among the people below the stage was getting more and more intense. These people were arguing loudly in front of Qin Guang. Qin Guang finally spoke. Everyone, must you do this? Of course. Your behavior is too shameful. We absolutely can't accept it. You don't have the right to step onto the stage of the finals. Qin Guang waved his hand and said, Evidence? Do you have any evidence? For a moment, everyone was stunned. They really did not have any evidence. Everything was just speculation. Since there's no evidence to prove that I cheated, what right do you have to question the fairness of the competition? Why are you so anxious? There's a debate in the finals. Can I still advance by manipulating the competition or leaking the information in advance? Qin Guang's expression became more and more severe as he spoke. I have reason to believe that all of you are using baseless speculation to defame me. I reserve the right to pursue your slander. You want me to withdraw from the competition without any reason. That's a violation of the rules of the competition. As an investor, I have reason to believe that this competition is unfair. According to the contract, I have the right to withdraw my investment. I have reason and the right to terminate the competition. Qin Guang's words were spoken in front of everyone. The huge venue was silent for a moment. He wasn't wrong. This time even the other contestants were anxious. Everyone had flown thousands of miles from all over the world to come here. Wasn't it for the huge prize money? If Qin Guang wanted to stop the competition, it would mean that the prize money would be gone. Who wouldn't be afraid? You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.